I'm waiting for it to go live over here, and then it says we're live, but
I
who the
don't
fuck
know.
knows?
Now I don't have enough light to see what I'm doing.
Why? What were you doing?
Oh, just my notebook. If I want to take a look in my bookie book.
You can't read your notebook from that light that you've got there. I mean, it doesn't look like it's that dark.
I write really nerd small to fit as much on the page as possible. It's a scrawl.
Could you put the thing closer to your face maybe to read it? To see what's going on? I mean, I'm not sure.
No can do, Paul.
Okay.
Hello.
I wasn't
You know what
sure.
the problem is? It's written small, and I have to take my glasses off to see it.
Okay.
Luckily, this is not MSNBC, and we're not getting paid. So who cares? Hello. Hi, everybody who's been waiting. Good to see you.
Hello.
I mean, you know what I mean by that. Sorry, my camera is shitty. I got to get a new camera. We were just, oh my God, I'm going to sneeze I'm going to sneeze. Hit the sneeze dump. Oh, I'm embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed.
You should be.
Don't say it like that because it's like you mean it.
No.
So we should apologize for not having I Love New York Ninja shirts. But I didn't love New York Ninja until I think yesterday or the day before.
Tuesday, I believe. Tuesday evening, you love New York Ninja.
I think you're right. Yesterday, I think I worked a lot because I had to watch New York Ninja. You gotta.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention.
You really gotta pay attention for the payoff, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like it's the same scene over and over and over? Because they obviously are using the same stunt guys in different masks to play all their slee stack.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, do you want to get right into it? Do we want to get right into
Well,
New
let's
York
make sure
Ninja?
people are here. We can wait a few minutes and ask if anybody has anything they would like to ask first, I guess.
Sure, I guess if anybody wants to ask anything. I'm sorry. I don't know.
What have you been smoking?
Stop. How dare you?
How dare I?
you? How dare you?
I'm drinking Pepsi.
Oh, good. I'm having tea.
What kind of tea?
A black tea with milk and sugar.
I don't know black tea. I've never been much into tea. I mean, people will serve you tea that you go, this is great, and then like classical music, you forget what the fuck you liked and what it was called, and it's gone to the ether.
Okay.
To the ether. Where's my cat? I was hoping Winky would make an appearance, but I see her food. I don't see her. But okay, we could just go and talk about whatever. No, I don't mean like that.
No, I didn't think you meant that. I don't know what you mean.
Do you want to start off with New York Ninja? Or do you want to talk to go-to beverage? I'm pretty much been a Pepsi goof for the last couple of years. I mean, if you're hanging out with people, beer is good. I do like a beverage.
Yeah, I don't drink. I just drink water and unsweetened ice. Thank you, Rob. Yeah,
I love that. I wanted him to set that up so that it was my face because then he said the mouth could move, and I'm like, that's great. That would be really fun. You have AI of your old selves.
Oh,
well, for a minute,
yeah,
I wouldn't want it either. Actually, I mentioned Jim Haley on Twitter. Somebody was talking about, and they were serious. They were like, I think I'm joining my local Sons of the Desert chapter. I know that it's silly, and I know that there's not that many left. And I was like, just the day before, I was like, the Sons of the Desert song pops into my head out of nowhere for no reason, won't leave, and it's Hanley singing it in my head.
Right.
So now I said, thanks. It's going to be there another 3 days because my old comic shop boss was a member of the Laurel and Hardy fan club, Sons of the Desert.
Right. He had a fez that I believe said Sons.
Fezes. They had a link. I forget who else was in it. I don't think it was
Rob
Rich.
Falcone, wasn't he?
That's right. I think it was Rob Falcone. Yeah. Because I remember them doing it like it was a sitcom. You know what I mean? They were both standing to the audience like, we are the Sons of the Desert, having the time of our lives, 2,000 strong, marching along, missing our kiddies and wives. God love them, or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
It's an
but
odd.
that was a memory trigger
Yeah.
of good times
Yeah.
back in the day, pre-COVID, when Wohop was actually open till 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Right. And indoor concerts didn't make you scared. Ugh.
Yeah, my family went to an indoor concert, but everything worked out. They went to see a Japanese all-star band.
Oh, cool.
I only know Hyde from Larkin Seal because we used to see their videos when the least time the Japanese 2 hour block of least time. You get the NHK news, you'd get Japan news, and you would get sometimes subtitled cartoons. That's where we found Kitaro, and you get ads for Mitsuo when it was Johan.
Okay.
But those were fun days. Fun days. So that concert went well, except it was the day that it was like 0 degrees.
Okay.
And there were people waiting online from the night before.
Oof.
Yeah, come on.
That's too old for that shit.
Exactly.
Remember Silver City? People waiting online.
Yes, that's the name of the place. I always talked about that. You drive by and you go, "Why are there a bunch of hippies?"
Right.
It was almost always like really scruffy.
You know, that's right around the corner from me, where I am now.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah.
No, I do. I remember that. You'd see like a big line, either heavy metal kids or hippies.
Fucking oh no, Rolling Stones are going on tour, so every asshole is out.
You're never going to see them again. The Rolling Stones. One of them might die one day.
No.
Keith Richards will not die.
Yeah, they get the good stuff.
I hate. The Rolling Stones have some good songs, but I actually don't like them at all. Oh no!
Yeah, I don't know. I might dip out for that one. Holy shit!
You can always go out for. I can always talk about Amity for about 8 hours, and then you can come back. Why am I sneezing? So, do you want to talk about New York Ninja first?
Sure.
And then we can talk about Amityville, New York Ninja. Amityville Ninja. Come on, right? Let's do it. I'm too tired, but somebody should do it.
Don't be too tired, Evan.
Oh, sorry, my cat's here. She must have. Winky. She must have gotten chased. Let me close the door real quick. Start us off on New York Ninja.
Okay, so New York Ninja is a film that, for some reason, got into everyone's consciousness in the last couple of days. Well,
I've been wanting to see it, and you made that possible. So that's how I.
Right. So the thing is, New York Ninja is a film. It's an unusual film. Basically, someone was making a film in the 80s, right? The distribution company or some company went under, and it was never developed. They didn't do anything with the film. Nothing happened. Vinegar Syndrome got all this footage, right, and kind of. They Frankenstein something together because they don't have a shooting script. They don't have audio. They just
I didn't know they didn't have a script. I knew they didn't have audio, but I didn't know they didn't have a script.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. So what you get is something that's kind of between What's Up, Tiger Lily and kind of riffing, because interesting enough, when you think about it,
I didn't think they were riffing much, to be honest. I didn't get that I watched it clean.
No,
I watched it without knowing that the dub was done that severely, that they didn't lip sync because they didn't know what the hell exactly.
Right.
I didn't really find like they space ghosted it, for lack of what. I thought it was pretty.
But
the movie is so what it is that it doesn't come across as self-parody too much.
No, but but the way I look at it is it feels like a crazy bad movie, but there was so much that the company, when they were putting this together, had an effect on that. They could have done it all seriously. They could have done it, they could have picked a lot of ways to present that. And it's almost like they said, we have a great bad movie in visuals. Yeah. We just don't have a great bad movie in story. Can we somehow create that? And I really feel like that's what I'm talking about.
You rewatched it today, right?
Yes, I did.
Did you watch any of the dialogue just for the hell of it? Because I was watching some of the dialogue and it seemed to match really well.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they had skilled lip syncers at
They
Video.
didn't. I
Yeah.
looked. The one thing I
Okay.
looked up was that they said that was just too much crazy work to do.
Okay.
Now they got an amazing group of people. Like the people that they got for this is like perfect
Right.
for this because it's all Times Square stuff. But I kind of like, even when I was laughing at some of the dialogue, and I did not know that they did not have a script. I didn't know it was mostly made. It was all made up. I mean, you can tell when a character's going yes or no or screaming, but the visuals and what's happening on screen could not be saved by anyone trying to do this seriously. You know,
Right.
it's a terrible movie.
Right.
And I mean, what's on the screen is, you know what I'm saying? What you get, what they made. Painstaking. I can believe it was painful.
Right.
That scene there when your main character is smashing his head into a pole as he walks back and forth. You can't put Shakespeare to that.
Right. And the thing is to bore everybody by showing them a website.
No.
John Lua, who directed it, he was made old school kick flicks.
I looked at some of his. He doesn't have a ton of credits that I could find, but he looks like he knows what he's doing.
Right, but no one else in the film knows what they're doing.
No one else around him does. He has no support. He has one guy who knows how to do a spin flip, a flip in the air when he gets kicked.
Right.
Everyone else is off the street terrible.
Yeah, pretty much.
And my favorite thing about this movie is that growing up on horror movies where you could tell three monsters are the same three guys every time they get shot, they come back and it's the same guys with the masks on as new soldiers or apes or monsters.
Right.
There's about 12 guys in this movie that don't go away.
Right. And I've because I rewatched this, just to give you a little background, what wound up happening is the critical masses. I saw this about a year and a half ago with an interesting story to go along with that, maybe. And our friend Evan and I's friend Brian, David Marshall, he caught it because it's playing on Showtime or the movie channel. And he was like, what the fuck is this movie?
He first thought it was a spoof that was made just now because of the release date and the way, because it really does read as it's got a new, it's really a hybrid on screen.
Yeah.
There's things going on with the sound and the soundtrack that sound authentic but sound a little too clean.
Yeah, and and the restoration is really well done. It's gorgeous looking.
It doesn't deserve it. Yeah. There are movies that really deserve, you know. I'm like, New York Ninja's beautiful looking. Why? There's nothing to look at in this movie. It's such a stupid movie.
Right. But again, to go back to like, you know, how they Frankensteined it together. I mean, let's say we were going to do a podcast about this. We couldn't comment on the story without it knowing that the story is purposely like that in a way. It isn't like, look at this crazy filmmaker who made this crazy movie, and then we tease the fact that the story doesn't make sense. They made the story. It's such an interesting thing to critique.
I'd be curious to see. I mean, is the guy around? Is John?
No, I believe he's
passed away.
I believe he's.
So there's no. So it seems like there's nobody they can find to go, wow, these scenes were not supposed to go together. I mean, they made a credible bad movie.
Oh, I think it's an exceptionally good bad movie.
Yeah,
you know?
It is a good bad movie too. It is funny.
Right.
It is because no matter what they did to the film, they can't change what's been filmed.
Right.
What's inside the box is terrible.
Right.
But it's an amazingly charming, terrible package that they made.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a compelling bad 80s New York ninja movie.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it really. I mean, and one of the things that we loved about it was the reason I wanted to see it was because Paul and Stevie found a location on Staten Island.
Right. If
that worked out. So I mean, I like New York movies. I especially want to see terrible Staten Island movies.
Right. I actually have that tweet that I did. I think if I could find it.
That's
Yes.
that's when I first heard about it. When you
Right.
when you put this up.
So the thing is, we're watching this movie. The missus goes, wait a second, because the movie is shot in New York City, and there's stuff that looked like Staten Island before this. But
Yeah, you can tell they're in Brooklyn because they're always under bridge. They're under bridges a lot. I don't think they got permits for this film.
No, it was all gonzo.
This is very Larry Cohen, in the way it's made.
So it turns out that this scene that they do, right, is basically filmed. It's like an 8-minute walk from my house. I leave my house, I turn right, I walk for 8 minutes, and this is it. It's
and is that guy in the mask still on the floor there?
No, and this is how it looks today. This is how it looks.
Sucks. There's no ninjas.
The movies, and you could tell. So yeah, it's Catholic.
Oh, of course they're fighting outside the Catholic Youth Organization.
Right. So it's one of those weird things because when you Staten Island is one of those places where, hey Mandy, is one of those places where a lot of people have made films throughout the years. So there's a lot of recognizable scenes in movies. But yeah, that was really interesting.
Also, you don't know how much of it was planned. Now that I didn't know there was no script, but the characters they transport throughout New York, Brooklyn, and Staten Island within the same scene. People get arrested in Manhattan, and then they're getting walked out of a building on Staten Island in one fluid sequence.
Right.
It's really head spinning. They're in Brooklyn talking about something, then they're back in Manhattan around the Badlands of Cortlandt Street, which cracked me up. You go to Cortlandt Street and you're a kid, you're gonna get mugged by the characters that wouldn't look out of place in the Turtles cartoon.
Well, one of the things is you were mentioning before how absolutely ridiculous it is that the gang members in this movie
is the best.
The way they fucking dress, they're the same guys. On first watching of this, one of the incredible things was I would watch it. I go, wait, are those people working for those people? Because those are the same people in the game. What the fuck is going on?
All the gangs are played by the same people.
Right. So because I thought we'd be doing this today, I've captured some images to help show everybody, what I think. This is some of the gangs. We get a little closer.
Also, this scene is confusing because everybody's fighting each other, but it turns out they're in the same gang.
Yeah.
The guy was pissed off.
Yes, we are on opposite sides this time, Roger. Honestly, because of the way I was doing something and set that up, and it was actually annoying me since it was the first time we did that.
They're dressed up like Italian. You'll watch it. It reminded me a lot of Ninja Turtles first movie. And a lot of Italian post-apocalypse, Bronx Warriors. These are these gangs. Some of these gang members you might have seen in Marvel Team Up in 1986, because they didn't want to offend everybody, so they had a multiracial gang of ding dongs.
Right,
you might be 22. You might have heard the 80s were dangerous in New York. These people never existed.
Right. So, in other words, you're saying, Evan, that you never met a guy who put up his hoodie and took electrical tape and wrapped it around his fucking head,
and then put some mascara and some blush across his cheeks.
Right. I have.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
The picture of you with those fake eyeballs behind you on the wall, it looks more like a gang member from 1984 in New York than anybody in this movie.
Right. These guys are.
These are some of the best outfits. Look at now. Okay, here's something I wanted to point out. Look up top. You see that person that's in the street?
Oh, this person here who had no idea what was going on in there.
This movie was not shot. You can tell that they did not block streets off wherever they were filming.
Right.
Multiple times things are happening in this movie, including one, it sounds stupid to talk about the plot. A major plot point that sets off this entire movie. There are always New Yorkers watching what's going on or going about their business.
But there always are, Evan. We don't care. Think of Q, right?
Oh,
Larry Cohen.
Larry Cohen doesn't get permits.
Right.
I just saw God Told Me To, and everybody is freaking out because they're just people dropping on the streets. In almost, look at this. Also, Village People. There's a bit of a Village People vibe. I don't, but look at this. This is beautiful. Look at the guy on the right. He's cosplaying one of the guys from the Narc video game.
Yeah, I have a close-up of this.
This movie begins in typical fashion with, hey, it's Tom and the Morrissey. Look at Bluto. Okay, that's a guy from Forbidden Zone, the one with the plastic mask and the mustache. Look at this. One's going skiing. What is with the guy on the right with the? What is going on here?
Now Evan, did someone
the Hollywood backup singer in the black?
Did someone do the costumes for this, or do you think they said, "Come, bring something"?
Edith Headless. Her name was Edith Headless. It is. You have to dress yourself, but bring a lot of electrical tape and get dressed in the dark. If you remember, Paul, and anyone who's seen this movie hinges on our lead character who becomes the New York Ninja to avenge the murder of his wife, who is pregnant. She just announces her pregnancy.
Right. Like literally. They meet each other.
Yeah.
In the opening scene, hey, we're married. Hey, we can't talk. No, I'm pregnant. And
yeah, he can't talk. But I gotta tell you this: she walks off and sees 3 supposed thugs who look sort of like kind of like flash dance backup dancers or something. They kidnap a woman in broad daylight in the middle of a busy street. Now, they are ostensibly they kill her in a very stiff, awful manner because she has seen this crime. But you can see in the background clearly there's old ladies walking across the street watching this happen. So the entire plot makes no fucking sense. We have to kill anyone who has witnessed this crime, but 4,000 people are watching this.
Right.
Which would have made a very interesting movie about killing 4,000 people on Cortlandt Street.
Now, I want to present the last image of thugs is my favorite picture possibly of all time. I was glad that this is fucking believable.
Yeah. It's sabotage. Look at the shit.
I mean, this guy, I would have gone as this guy for Halloween every year.
I don't know which one's best. If you could get threat.
No, it's got to be.
The guy on the right is fantastic because he's got this grimace like Charles Nelson Riley face.
No, because he also because he's wearing that beret or maybe a backwards Kangol. He looks like a Hostess cupcake.
He does. You want to pick up the frosting on the top. But he looks like the Master Cylinder from the Felix the Cat cartoons also. It's just an amazing face. But all 3 of them are just brilliant. It's just
you get
like a pinch from the neck from Mr. Spock.
Like, what is this exactly?
I don't know.
Like, if you had to recreate that, could you even do that?
No.
I don't even know what it is.
That's
absolutely beautiful.
Well, the middle guy looks like a crafts kit that went. The guy on the right, I think that is a Kangol hat. I think he's got a. What is on top of it?
I think it's a star.
But look at the way his mouth looks. It's just.
I mean, it's just brilliant.
And then on the left, you got the guy from Our House on Highway 5.
Yeah,
it's incredible. If you could get a lot of people to dress up and do they do flash mobs anymore? Because I would love to.
The kids are doing flash mobs constantly.
Oh, really? I don't know. But there should be a New York Ninja. See, okay, so you watched it today. The guys who come off as the 3 main henchmen, the ones who kill New York Ninja's wife.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what happened to them. I was trying to find them in the thrum at the end of the movie, and did they just disappear? There is a Stardust quality to that. But it's like, do they get? I don't remember a scene where they get their comeuppance. Where they
there is a the plot point. The guy who murders our New York Ninja's wife.
Mrs. New York Ninja, I think.
Mrs. Yes, Dr. Mrs. New York Ninja. She grabs one of his absolutely shitty cufflinks.
Yeah.
Like when I used to collect cufflinks, that's, you'd go to a vintage place and they'd always have these ugliest cufflinks. That he loses one, but he somehow wears the other one all the time because he's identified throughout the film.
The sartorial aspects of New York in this film are, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
And
if this guy looks like a Hostess cupcake, you can wear one cufflink.
Our hero is literally walking down the street, and the villain has his arm out his door, and he sees the cufflink, and he
walks right over to him and sniffs him like a dog.
Yeah, and the guy says, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" It sounded appropriate.
Well, really quick, one thing I want to point out is that this film, 90% of this film plays like an ABC after-school special. 10% of it is like a canon film.
Right.
There's a weird out-of-place sex scene.
Right. Well, there is kind of three kind of movies that they cobble together. There's the beginning, which is revenge and weird gangs. There's the Plutonium killer.
Right. I figured we'd get the Plutonium man.
A super powered serial killing, whatever the fuck he is.
I don't even know why he's killing people.
He likes it.
Everything happens how do you pronounce in media res? Is it in media res? Everything except for the murder of the wife, all this stuff's been going on. As you can tell by fake newspapers that all have the same news under them no matter what day.
Right.
One of them is Menagerie of Animals Escapes, which is it's like an airplane, man. Boy trapped in an elevator to eat its own foot. You keep seeing this. New York Ninja saves us again. Menagerie of Animals.
But there's also don't forget the third plot, which is the women that are getting kidnapped
by Plutonium Man.
And the gang that killed his wife. You see, that's why his wife was killed. His wife stopped a kidnapping.
No, she gets kidnapped.
No.
She doesn't stop a kidnapping. The woman does get kidnapped.
Oh no. Well, she attempts to stop a kidnapping.
Right. Sorry. I really don't. I don't want to. I mean,
yeah, we don't want to confuse anybody. Yes.
It's like 3 days in a condor here.
Right. The wife attempts to stop a kidnapping. That doesn't happen. And the wife is killed. But yeah, the thing is, they really couldn't put a solid story together. Again, to try to pick apart the story.
But the funny thing is, it doesn't come off as any worse a story than movies that did have a script available.
Right.
Because it's just the gangs are running all over New York, and they're always fighting with each other, even if they work with each other or work under. I mean, it's like a cartoon. That's what I mean. It's like an ABC after school special. Plutonium Man, gets really angry at his subordinates, curses them out and yells at them, and then kind of fires them. And then they literally turn around and start yelling at him again. He rehires. And that has nothing to do with the script. It's all the one scene.
Right. And
it's fucking insane.
I'll share this now. This is what I pulled to represent how the action looks in this. This is the roller skating.
It's the best scene in the movie.
This is 30.
This is the best Star Wars ever.
Yeah, like 30 seconds of
this part's great.
Oh no, I screwed up.
Look at the speed he gains. Look at the speed. And here's where you get your warrior's homage, I guess. Look at him. Look at him. Now, if you watch everybody he's working with, he can move, although being on roller skates absolutely gives him no advantage. And that's great. Have the car block everyone. Oh, these two idiots.
Right. And then we get, alley-oop, boop.
Okay.
Zoop.
Yeah, he was already
Not bad.
Except the motorcycle was already ahead of him, but whatever. He moves pretty decently.
Yep.
But everyone he fights is hired. Hi, Kitty. I mean, where did they? I would love to know more about this movie, though. That's the thing.
It is a.
How is no one who worked on people who worked on this movie have had to, woke up one day and went, "Holy shit!" They put this movie out that I was the third guy in. I was wearing the cupcake hat. because I couldn't find any stories about making this.
Yeah, there was, because it's usually right on IMDb. It's like, hey, I was in
Yeah,
it.
there's always one guy who goes, "This is the worst movie ever," but I'm giving it a 10 because we rolled it. We didn't get paid. We had to fight to get lunch.
Right.
But there's a lot of people involved in this film.
Yeah.
This is not a 3 people in a house getting, this isn't Things. And they're shooting all over the place. And the people who play the stunt people are so bad. I mean, it's great. He doesn't connect with half the people. They don't connect with him. They constantly waiting for him to turn around so they can start attacking. Lots of hitching before anybody swings. Did you ever feel that New York Ninja was ever in danger in this film, Paul?
Well, yes, because he is shot. He's shot. A child is shot, Evan. I would imagine,
Yeah, but after the child was like killed practically.
But he's not killed.
Because he rubbed his breast or something. He did. I don't know what he did. I like the scene where he recovers the bullet from his own chest as if it was like taped to him. It just, it's an amazing film.
Yeah, it is really amazing. But the thing is, too, we mentioned this. There's one of the plots that's going through is there's a killer called the Plutonium Man,
who I don't think is ever called the Plutonium Man by another character.
No,
I think the newspaper might call him Plutonium Man.
Really? Yeah, but yeah,
when
it was friends. Yeah,
because I didn't know what his name was otherwise. Because people don't identify themselves well in this film at all.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, the Ninja comic book probably explains a lot of backstory. We're missing a lot here. I mean, it's really. I didn't know the choppy nature of it until you mentioned it, because the movie doesn't ever do the things that lots of action vanity projects do. He doesn't train, as far as I can remember. He just has the ability. He's working as a sound engineer on a news team,
like New York One,
that never goes to work and never actually posts stories or dispatches anything. And so he's a sound engineer, but he's a ninja.
Right.
No explanations. Nobody even goes, how do you know how to do this? It has none of the stock scenes from a lot of these types of films.
Yeah.
And I personally love his outfit because he looks like a guy trying out to be in the Mummies, the band. He does not look like a ninja. He looks like one of the mummies.
Well, yeah, he's got. It's not a very white ninja costume,
and it's kind of wrapped it's like very garbage bag looking. But the movie also, another thing that's interesting about the movie is how inept all the characters are, except they're not supposed to be. It's not like, when you have the sheriff squad in one of those down south border movies, the Buford Buster type is screaming and yelling, and the Jackie Gleason is always fucking up, and like BJ and what is it? What's the Burt Reynolds thing? The
Hooper?
No, that's
no. You mean Smokey and the Bandit? I'm sorry.
Right. The law enforcement, the enemies are always played for. They're played for laughs. It's inept, and they're showing up. Everyone in this movie, including our hero, sucks at what they're doing. There's a scene where he basically fails to just follow somebody to prevent the kidnapping. He doesn't follow them to the lair. He just walks away after the fight, and they take his friend away, the woman reporter, and he doesn't follow her.
Well, that's what I mean.
And he gets beat up a lot. He gets disarmed a lot. He misses a lot.
But that's one of the problems with trying to figure out how much of this could they do. Like, was he going to shoot those scenes where he does something and then it's like, oh, I forgot to, or did he leave the lens cap on?
I don't know. They had a movie's worth of footage. I mean, it's not an hour movie.
Well, like I said, there's like 8 or 9 hours of raw footage of this. Didn't I say that?
They shot 8 or 9 hours of this shit?
Well, I mean, people probably fell down. I don't think it's like Apocalypse Now.
There's so much one-shot stuff sitting in this movie. It's amazing. But you know what I mean? He's incompetent. He doesn't pick up on clues.
Yeah.
He's the way it also explains why the gang of fans just shows up out of the fucking blue. The little rascals with the I Love Ninja shirts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody fucking shoots them.
Yeah.
These guys have guns and nunchucks and stuff, and a bunch of kids run over to them, and nobody beats the living shit. I mean, it's a fucking insane movie.
Yeah, it is absolutely special.
What is Plutonium Man doing with plutonium?
Well, it seems like he needs like radioactive substances to quell the radioactive decay that's like his body's fucking falling apart. Like he takes off his gloves are fucked up. He takes off his Sting glasses. You know, he has those glasses with the shit on the side.
More than one time, somebody knocks his glasses off to get rid of him.
Yeah,
like a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just like it's, and he's you know, yeah, he's kidnapping women to sell them into a trade, and that whole thing. The weirdest part, and I don't have any images from this that I pulled, but where they show where the women are being held, it's incomprehensible. There's like literally women in lingerie, like on spools of rope, lightly tied. It
looks like a gangster. It looks like it looks like a Turtles movie. The Turtles movie. It's this big warehouse with all this shit in it, and women are stage put all around it in various degrees of undress.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. This one's wearing a bra and panties. This one's wearing a dance leotard. This one has a skirt and a t-shirt. They've all got new wave hair that hasn't been touched. This is such an 80s. It's like an AI spit out an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Because nothing makes sense. The art direction on this film is come as you are, do what you want. We're making a movie.
Yeah.
People don't run. The women have every opportunity to run away, but they just stand there and shriek while stuff is going on. And then there's a woman who's supposed to be sort of like the Cynthia Rothrock of this thing. And she's awful. She's supposed to be fighting this guy who's wearing a pirate. He's got a
whip.
He's got a kerchief over his head.
Oh, that's that guy, not the whip.
He has
guy.
a whip.
Oh, it's the whip guy.
And an eye patch.
Okay.
He's like a pirate that stands at a gate, and she fights him, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
You can't get around that one. That's a terrible.
So the thing is, it's funny.
Yes.
It's intentionally funny. It's unintentionally funny.
Yes.
The action is abysmal. There is not one good action. Not a punch is given. Nothing is good about that. I do think the beginning of the movie is better than the second half. I feel like the first half.
The second half feels like the same scene over. It feels like they had less. They didn't know what to work with and where to go.
Yeah, but it
was open ended. But my favorite part of it is when they get to the helicopter pad, and you're like, they're not gonna get it, and they have to keep running away from helicopters because it's like can't afford to use this one.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they literally, we have no gas, and they jump out. We have no pilot. We have no gas.
Son of a bitch.
What's really funny about it is that the film doesn't wink at you. The dialogue that's dropped in doesn't wink, but the whole thing is absolutely outlandish and insane without breaking the fourth wall or doing riff tracks.
Right. I think that's where what I said before didn't quite make sense. It's not like they're self-aware they're making a bad movie, but they're not saying we're making a bad movie.
Yeah, they're not laughing at the movie.
Yeah, they're not doing ridiculous voices.
They're trying to do a real story. They did a really good soundtrack that works really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, the movie's absolutely it's a great bad movie.
Yeah.
I mean, to what end you worked this hard to save something like New York Ninja? It's very dedicated.
Yeah.
But they had the people who do the voices for it Don? Is it Don
the Dragon Wilson?
Cynthia Rothrock?
Ginger Lynn Allen?
Michael Berryman is the Plutonium Man. Who which just terrible. But
Oh, and
what else?
we should also mention that the
Oh,
Plutonium man has a driver. He has a chauffeur.
oh, Rat Tail.
What do you mean? Is that the only thing you
Look
can?
at that.
He is.
How Italian? What an is that some Italian still there?
I'm sorry. To me, I feel like it's Daniel Radcliffe, like just gone
Wow.
off with a rat tail.
Wow.
The rat tail was very big at one time. Remember that shit?
I honestly didn't know that was his own hair until I saw the end credits.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck he was doing. And then
So-
at the end of the movie, they call him Rat Tail, and I'm like, ew.
Now the thing is,
Creepy thing.
this guy is set up to be a good fighter.
He's
right?
supposed to be the odd job. He's supposed to be the Darth Vader to the Emperor. He sucks.
So he and New York Ninja have a fight. He has a sword cane with his fucking wolf head, right? And it's terrible. It's
gotta
so
be the most
terrible.
You're expecting there to be one good fight.
And there isn't.
You figure they hired one guy out of New York City from a dojo or something, or from a school, and said, we need one guy to fight him. Doesn't this guy know anybody in the business? He's been in movies. and he gets this rat tail guy, Joey Jimenez, who probably was a chauffeur, going to drive you to the Shalimar for the fucking prom.
Wow.
And he does nothing.
And then when he's fighting him badly, all of a sudden he starts doing a drunken style of fighting.
That's right.
Which is
drunken sword style. It's the most embarrassing thing in the movie. And he even says, "Oh, drunken sword style."
Right, because I feel like they said we got to put that line in because that's going to be hilarious.
But he really is. But here's what I'm saying: he's doing drunken sword style. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that there's a drunken style in 1980. You know, that's around the time. You know, that's an early. I didn't see drunken style until years later. I'm not no expert. But drunken sword style by a guy who has no martial arts skills is just drunken idiot shit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I was embarrassed. That was the. I think the movie's charming. It's such a mess. Everybody is obviously trying really hard, but it really comes off as kids playing in a sandlot.
Yeah.
With somebody's got a video camera. But the guy who's supposed to be the good fighter henchman being that bad and then being asked to do drunken style. That was the only time where I was really like, this is a car crash. This is awful.
Well, at the very end, when you were talking about the helicopter stuff, our Plutonium man is trying to escape for some reason with the reporter lady. And
well, he loves her. You know what I mean? He's like King Kong. He's in love with her.
What?
He loves her. He wanted her. Remember? He was like, no, that one's mine. It was one of those. Somehow she's the most beautiful lady in New York to the villain.
Yeah, it's weird though because the actress wears a very cheap wig.
That wig is amazing,
and it looks like 80s porn actresses that would buy cheap wigs and just wear a cheap wig.
Everybody who gets kidnapped is wearing a version of 80s porn hair. You know, there's Sika, and there's not that I've seen this stuff, but you know,
no, not of course, for research purposes.
Oh, Linnea Quigley does a voice, right?
Yes, she is. Is she the no? Who is she? I don't remember.
I don't either.
Because there's an undercover cop. There's another cop that works for her. Then one guy they say is from Paul.
The scene that you showed with the two reporters are not the same reporters that show up in our main character reporters. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was just happy when one of the reporters actually got killed. I was glad about that. And then there's a weird plot that Plutonium Man can he's false face from Batman.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. He turns into another guy.
They do pack a lot of stuff in though. There's it's just all bad.
Yeah, we actually do look like lunatics doing that. No, I have not seen.
I haven't seen Shin Ultraman yet. I really want to, but I just haven't been. The way I watch movies is very catch as catch can. Am I in the mood for a movie? Do I have time for a movie? I just throw on some. But I had to watch New York Ninja because known quantity wanted to see it, and Paul was able to grab it, so I I was like, yay, I'll watch this while I'm eating. And then it was good enough to keep watching after I was eating and put me in a good mood for the night. New York Ninja will put me in a good mood.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What else do
Really.
you want from the movie?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of
But
fun.
it's definitely unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are they beating up kids? You remember there's the other gang that, like you said, you can't tell who's on what side because all the gangs, it's like the Warriors. There's a million gangs, but they're really the same actors. You can tell they're in those masks.
I think if I'm right, the guy who was beating up kids, there were two guys beating up kids, right? The kid that comes, there's one scene where
there's the black guys gang they're always beating up this kid for his money on Cortlandt Street by the subway, which was making me laugh because it was like the most undangerous subway. It's like kids can't walk into New York without. And how much money are you gonna get from a kid? You kids always have money. That's what he's like. He actually says, "You kids always have money."
No, it doesn't. That doesn't make sense. But there is, but I believe that the bad Beastie Boys gang with Hostess Cupcake guy, I believe they're there when they shoot. That's the gang that shoots New York Ninja and the kid, which looks like they're dead, but then they're not.
Yeah, the kid. I thought the kid was dead, but New York Ninja.
New York.
He's a lunatic in the early scenes. Actually, he's cutting himself. He's really depressed over his wife, that baby. He the way that he shows the hero going through things, which is you always have to have that, is so strange. It's kind of like The Room for ninjas. He does this one monologue. Well, actually, I think it's just mono word. He just keeps saying why or something, and he keeps walking in between two poles in a yard and increasingly hitting himself harder as he smashes into the walls. It's kind of like that scene in Altered States where William Hurt is trying to shake the caveman out of himself.
Right.
And it looks like it hurts like hell.
Yeah. And
it proves nothing. Then he starts taking he goes back to his house. We don't know where he lives. And he takes swords out and starts cutting his hands across. What is he accomplishing?
He's just trying to dull the pain, Evan. He just, he needs help.
He should drink like, all the ex-cops do in New York movies. Divorced ex-cops with a dead kid. Just drink. It's a lot easier than smashing yourself into poles.
Yeah, it's
it's a lovely movie. I like when the CIA guy who's letting this guy kidnap all these women turns out to be a CIA agent who just says, literally in the movie, "Cheerio, I've been funneling women to points unknown."
He was
That's our plan,
Evan. I believe he was Interpol. But it's stupid when someone does Interpol fucking do anything? Can they do anything?
I don't know.
Like
because he basically got a lot of women kidnapped and transported and trafficked and then leaves.
Yeah, he was busy.
And then he tells this guy the cop character also what? Oh, forget it. Fucking. There's no reason to try to worry out. I'm actually starting to wonder how the logic works.
No, you can't.
A bad idea.
Yeah, it's that's not the point.
I recommend it.
Yes,
I had a great time with it.
Yeah.
So is Ninja like streaming anywhere? Because
yes, it is on. I believe it's Paramount Plus. It's on. I think it's on Showtime and maybe the Movie Channel. And Vinegar Syndrome has the Blu-ray out. And I don't know if it's like a quick rent from any place or not.
And I saw that Turner Classic Movies showed it. Apparently, that's how a lot of people saw it.
Maybe I'm sorry, it's not the movie. Maybe it was Turner Classic Movies.
Oh,
that's what
But that's hilarious. But I really really enjoyed it. It's a party movie definitely too.
Yeah. It was funny because I'm glad I rewatched it because I had fun with it both times.
I'd go see that I'd go see I'd
get high and watch that again.
Yeah. So what else have you been up to? What have you seen? Anything?
I've watched movies. Do you want me to talk about any movies I've recently watched?
Unless you want to talk about something else.
No, I'll talk about.
Unless there's a New York Ninja 2.
The thing is, I did a night of bad. I made bad choices one night.
And that's every night for me.
I did a double feature of The Return of Captain Invincible and Condor Man.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never been able to go near Condor Man.
Condor Man is so fucking bad. It
It's a
is
Disney film,
so
right? Is it an
fucking
80s
bad.
Disney film?
Yes, it is. It's interesting. It is. Yes.
Because when Disney live action around that period, I just, you know what I mean? It was like stunk the house out. I'm not going near any of it. And this
Yeah.
is from somebody in the 70s who paid to see The Cat from Outer Space because nothing was happening. There was no spaceship movies or anything like that. So, Cat from Outer Space was terrible, but it was harmless. Condor Man just looks. I have never wanted to see it.
Well, it isn't what you think it is. That's the problem. You think you might be getting a kind of superhero movie because it does what movies. If you watch this, you'd go crazy because the main guy is a comic book creator. He's an artist and writer, but he's got everything in his life is together, and he's cool and he's slick.
That's unreal. That's very Disney-like. Yeah, cartoonists with their life together.
Makes a ton of money. Everything's great, and in the beginning, he's wearing this suit and it crashes in the water. But really what it is it's a spy spoof movie. It really is kind of like a James Bond type of spy spoof movie. And it's fucking terrible. It's terrible. Everything about... See, The Return of Captain Invincible is bad.
I looked for that after you said you'd seen it because
it's on Tubi.
I'm confusing it with like the old TV shows. I think Mr. Invincible and
no. It's like that.
There's a William Daniels TV show, and then there's one with. Is it Wally Cox? There were two superhero shows.
Right, there was a Wally Cox one. Yeah.
But I don't know Return of Captain Invincible. I never heard of it.
Yeah, but to go back to Condom Man for a second, it's awful. It's unwatchable in an enjoyable way. Return of Captain Invincible is like a mind fuck. It doesn't make any sense. So it's enjoyable in that. So Condom Man's a bad movie.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't watch it. And Return of Captain Invincible is maybe worse, but you should watch it.
What is Return of Captain Invincible?
It's a Australian.
Okay, I was gonna say I had a feeling it was foreign. It was not
superhero
American.
Parody quasi musical.
Wow. All right. I mean, that sounds
right. I am going to throw this on screen because some of the things that are showing will eventually show what's going on.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. What year? It's 83.
Wow.
It was like what is that on?
Wait, that's not Captain Invincible.
No, that's not Captain. How dare you?
That's one of the whoops. That's one of those Hammer flicks, I think.
Yeah, what you get in this is it's really hard to say.
Some of it looks like Starstruck. You ever seen Starstruck? I think it's New Zealand. I don't know if it's Australian. I think it's New Zealand. It's a musical, new wave musical about a girl who wants to get into the recording industry.
Oh, I might not have. That sounds
some really interesting stuff in it. The band is Swingers.
Yeah. But so what happens is Condom Man is an old school hero who, even though he's Captain Invincible.
So this stuff looks like it's old like Republic serials.
Right, and what winds up happening is he's kind of even though he's a kind of a conservative jerk, during kind of McCarthy-like hearings, he's, run out of town. And he becomes a drunk and he goes to Australia.
Wait, a drunk in Australia? It's science fiction.
You're going to get us in trouble.
With who?
With Australian people. They're going to take 25 hours at Fly here and get us in trouble.
Okay.
So it turns out that Captain Invincible saved some jerk-offs and a little kid's, he signed his book. And that little boy became the president of the United States of America, who is so not American, it hurts you, right? When you're watching.
Is he as believable as the mayor in New York Ninja?
No, I believe the mayor that guy lived in New York.
Yeah, but did you believe he was the mayor?
No, I didn't.
I love
we have terrible mayors.
That's a great scene. That's a great scene.
Yeah. Yeah. So So it's basically asking him to come back because Christopher Lee, who is a villain that he's matched wits with throughout his
Christopher
time,
Lee, man.
is
You think about Christopher Lee's personality and the way he comes off and he talks about things, and then you see some of the movies he's in, and you got to wonder how he didn't just beat some PA to death during some of these films, because he is in some of the worst fucking movies ever. I mean, I'm really happy. Like, that's why I'm really happy that guys like him ended up in like the Star Wars, even though I don't care about it.
Right.
I'm really glad he ended up in things like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, because some of the Italian and German and now Australian stuff Christopher Lee was in is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
So Christopher Lee's a villain. Sorry, but I was just
no. But the thing is, some of the music is written by the guy or guys who did Rocky Horror.
okay.
And there's a song that Christopher Lee sings, "Pick Your Poison."
What? Wait, excuse me. Back that shit up. What
There's
did
a
you just say?
song that Christopher Lee sings, which I believe the name is called "Pick Your Poison," because he's trying to get Captain Invincible, who's been on the wagon and has recovered his powers mostly.
There's a song that Christopher Lee sings.
And it is so bad. I watched it like this, and I said, I'm pot committed in this movie. This is at the end of the movie. I have to watch it. I'm like, oh, Stevie, I can't do it. Poor Christopher Lee. It is, yeah, it's an amazingly, you should definitely watch that. Don't watch Condo Man. Yeah.
Considering the things that I've watched, I can't make fun of this recommendation.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic. It does sound like a great car crash. But I hate watching Christopher Lee in these things, because it's like there's something about watching Donald Pleasance in a shitty thing where you feel like Donald Pleasance is just laughing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you see what's his face in Star Crash, the guy who's at the end of Star Crash. He plays the president of the giant crystal toilet.
Christopher Plummer.
He said to people, he goes, "I wanted to go to Italy. I didn't give a shit. I wanted to go to Venice." But Christopher Lee, you kind of feel like he goes, "What's my motivation here?" And he does the Orson Welles thing. You know what I mean? Because he's a grumpy dude.
Now, according to the Wikipedia,
singing,
The Return of Captain Invincible grossed a mere 55,110 at the Australian box office against a budget of $7 million.
Wow. That's
so
cool.
It never got really released. That's why we don't know about it here.
Right.
It's only now,
it was suppressed.
Do you remember
Christopher Lee?
Do you remember what was it? Not Quite Hollywood, the exploitation documentary. Yeah. It's mentioned in there a little, it's really interesting. It's definitely worth a watch.
I watched an Australian film recently that was terrible. God darn, what was it called? Nope.
Well, you look for that. I'm just going to bring this question up. I have not watched.
I think it was called. It's got two generic titles.
Okay.
Nightmares.
Right.
A Stage Fright.
Right. Which one is that?
It's fucking terrible. It's an amazing. It'll remind you a lot. It's funny because I've been on that Pete Walker kick. Right. People know who Pete Walker is. Frightmare. House of Whipcord, the comeback. Schizo. But one of his early horror films is The Flesh and Blood Show, which is basically this movie in a lot of ways. It's people being hired to be in a theatrical. It feels quite a lot the same. The thing that's weird about this movie is how kind of depraved it is as an exploitation piece.
Right.
There's scenes where I actually was going, whoa, how this is going to porno. It's a terrible movie. They reshot scenes to make it grosser.
Yeah.
I guess the curiosity aspect is, if you want to see what an Australian slasher looks like, that's really nasty and stupid and is just sleazy and shitty. But it's about adults and not young people and teenagers. It's really weird. People talk about it's a really strangely naked film. People are just fully nude in a lot of the scenes, which you don't see in this way. Women, men getting chased around by a But what's fascinating about it is it's a slasher. You could argue about whether it's a giallo or not. It doesn't matter. There's no point in even really talking about this film past 2 cents. I've never seen a film that did nothing to blunt the identity of the murderer. You're like, they're practically like, the movie should have been called "The Murderer is X," and then you watch it, and yeah, the murderer was X. It's just phenomenally bad, but it's strangely nasty and repellent, and bad. But I don't know. I couldn't like recommend it as a good bad movie.
Okay.
It was a film that I didn't know was Australian, so it's like, we've kind of also been on that Australian movie kick. If you see one, grab it. Like I saw Dark Age after you sent me to that YouTube channel. You should plug that guy who does those videos again.
Oh yeah, I'll bring that up.
But after I watched his Jaws ripoff video, I wrote down the names of a whole bunch of them and I tried to watch. The problem with them is that the Italian Jaws ripoffs are really hard to get through. They're just...
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them, because they're exactly the same thing again. Yeah, this is the Bad Movie Bible.
Oh, is that New York Ninja there in the Best Worst Vanity?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think that's him right there. Yeah.
Because I watched that one. I didn't remember. That was really good. The Best Worst Vanity project was really funny. I have never seen any of the films by that guy Ben Steen, I think his name is.
Right.
The films are absolutely horrible.
But this video channel, this guy has written some books that I haven't had a chance to read, but his channel is about as yes, Cruel Jaws, Jesus Christ.
I have not seen Cruel Jaws.
It's really in depth. His videos are great. Every time they come out, like he'll do like rip-offs of Die Hard movies, and I'll just start writing lists down of movies that look interesting.
Yeah, they seem to be like 45 minutes to an hour of, he really goes through. I mean, you're gonna go, what about so and so, and he doesn't get, but he does a great job.
Yeah,
I don't always agree with his assessments of every film, but his research and
you're a pain in the ass.
Among other things, his research and I like his sense. He's got a dry sense of humor about this.
Yeah.
Where you go, wait, I think that was a joke. Oh, that was a joke. That was a very good joke.
Yeah.
But they're very good videos. He's not trying to be the funniest man on earth. He's not trying to be the biggest genius. It's the Jaws ripoff one was just okay. Oh, that's interesting. How many times the same kill was used in 5 Italian horror movies? But if he's dismissive of something you like, whoop-de-doo. I ended up, I made a list of them. In fact, it's in my book here. Claws, Dogs, The Pack, Barracuda, Alligator 2, Piranha 2. No, that's something
Alligator
else.
2 is not worth watching.
That's, I believe, what he said. Cruel Jaws is on my list. Shark Attack 3, Devilfish, Dark Age, Razorback. I really want to see Razorback. I haven't been able to find a good...
Which one's Razorback?
That's the Steve Railsback, which is weird that Steve Railsback is not the Razorback. Now, if they made a movie called Railsback and he was on the Outback Railsbacking and backing up with your house.
I feel like there's never been a good copy of Razorback. I feel like that's why I never watched the movie as a kid. We'd rent it and it looked weird. Like you literally couldn't see what the fuck was going on in it.
Yeah. Dark Age was interesting. That's Australian. That's a giant alligator movie. Yeah, the Killer Boar movie. I can't find a place to watch it.
Yeah.
The Dark Age is Australian alligator flick, which tries something different. It does follow the Jaws pattern really well. And then they realize, wait, this is an Australian movie. We have to have car chases in a giant alligator movie. And they do it. It's not a great movie, but there's some really interesting things in it. And it is funny that they basically do, if you watch the guy's video, here's the shot where they do this, I forget how they do it, the zoom in while the background is moving shot of Roy Scheider on the beach, kill a kid. There's a project that they can't interrupt. So you've got a mayor of the town kind of thing. But it's got some pretty neat things in it. It kind of falls up. Did you ever watch it, Dark Age?
No, I don't think I did. I'm sorry.
Really it kind of falls apart, but it's really likable, I thought. But it's not a giant. It's not alligator like the American alligator movie. It's not the alligator ends up being kind of like Free Willy at the end for the last 45 minutes, and it's just drunken Australian assholes versus our hero and some Aboriginal people. But it's a neat film, neat enough, and it's Australia, so you get interesting facts. But they had to have an insane car chase in a giant alligator movie. It's like, how do you not? And I watched that, and I watched Devilfish, which was as bad and boring as I was afraid it was going to be.
Yeah,
it's an octopus shark, but you don't see the tentacles unless they're on their own. Like, you'll see the shark front when it's in the ocean, the tentacles when somebody's in a boat. All of a sudden, these rubber things. It's terrible. I mean, if you're a William Berger completist, I think he's in it. It's terrible. I haven't seen Cruel Jaws, though. I forgot what that was from the. Well, I do want to see Piranha 2, which has the flying piranha.
Yeah. My problem is that I confuse them all. I literally not retain which one is what of these, which one I've seen, which one I want to see.
That's my problem with a lot of Giallo, the non-famous or non-supernatural Giallo.
Yeah.
Is that I really do conflate. Did this person see somebody having sex with their mother at the beginning? Is it pieces? It's a little hard. Like, you have to go like which. That's why it's like, at least with Fulci and Argento, I can almost always, I never conflate them. This has got Freudstein in the house.
Right.
This is hell. This is also hell, but in America.
Okay, I answered this before.
Future.
It's the Cronenberg's new
Cronenberg. No, I know nothing about it. I know people like it. I know nothing about it.
I have not seen it. Sorry, Roger.
I haven't seen any of his son's films.
Yeah, I've seen. Well, I saw the Possessor, uncut version of the Possessor, and
did it have extra possession?
It's got a little extra in it. It's one of those movies where I think the acting's good and it's well directed, but the story they decide to tell in this world is not as interesting as the story I think they could have told in this world. Like, by the end of the film, there's an understanding of how it's basically you could kind of go into other people and possess them in order to do like perfect murders or something. Right.
Okay.
How do I get to that person? Well, and that's how it works. And unfortunately, at the end of it, you're like, wow, that's interesting. I wish they had talked more about this or that aspect of it, right. where it's more about a character who is having issues. Her personality is merging with the personality of the person that she's currently possessing. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
I find if something's not a horror film necessarily. I mean, but yeah, it's good. I think if you're going in expecting something to be a horror film, there's going to be that waiting, which can be weird. You're like, where's my Bigfoot? This movie's called Bigfoot Returns. Where's my Bigfoot?
Right, exactly.
I hope he does a Bigfoot. I hope that guy does a Bigfoot episode, because those blur. And the bad thing about Bigfoot movies is the ones from 1970 blur with the ones from 2000 because they're just the same fucking movie. Infinity Pool. I've never even heard of that one.
No, that's the new one out. It looks really interesting. It's weird because I feel like the same problems I have with the father, I have with the son. So unfortunately, he isn't on the top of my list of directors I'm fascinated in what they do,
Yeah. Yeah, you've always been kind of
anti-Cronenberg, yeah.
Not anti. I always thought you were just cool towards him. Anti is like too strong a word, Paul.
Yeah, I guess. Oh,
look, I've pissed off Australia. I don't want you to have father and son Canadian filmmakers coming down on you. I worry about you.
Like, I really like Scanners, as wackadaisical as that fucking movie is.
I do too.
But there's a lot about his like I remember. I went to a film class with, we all worked at Jim Hanley's Universe.
Jiggins?
With Jim Higgins, who might be watching this now. If he is, hi, Jim. He was our he was actually a professor when I was taking film courses, and I took his film class, and he showed Videodrome, and I just have never been that impressed with the movie.
I've never loved Videodrome. I think it dated really badly, like right after. Excuse me, I realize I'm doing this on camera, but what to do? Videodrome bugs me. I think there's some really great scenes, but I don't think it's much of a movie. But speaking of scanners, I have two things I'd like to add to the conversation. Hi, Paul. Hello. One is I have completed my Scanners viewing. I have now seen Scanners Cop and Scanners Cop 2.
Okay.
So I'm excited. These are all things that it has taken me years because of the streaming services and Tubi and everything. I've been able to finally see Scanners 2, 3, Scanner Cop, and Scanner Cop 2.
Okay, before you even, what is your favorite Scanners movie?
Scanners.
And what is your least favorite Scanners movie?
Scanners 3.
Okay.
It's the most ridiculous. It has scenes that didn't work back then. I mean, it's just got laugh out loud, embarrassing stuff in it.
Is there a good sequel? Is there a decent sequel?
Scanners 2 is, you could do a lot worse, which is faint praise. But I remember being involved with it because it was interesting to see where they were trying to go with things, but they had no money. Scanners is a fucked up franchise where I only think Scanners 3 is embarrassing. Scanners 3 is where they finally just basically have a scanner say, who's not like a lunatic, decide to try to do I'm going to take over the world thing. But it is such a bad film with bad ideas and bad scenes. 2 is just, it's not that good, but I can see liking it if I had seen it when it came out. Okay. There's intense scenes. The villain he's got a good look. They're putting scanners into a lab and they're making them crazy and they're using them as hitmen. But the thing is, Scanners is messed up film because they rushed it, because they had to make it right now. It didn't have a script, but it had, Cronenberg knows his shit. It's got Philip K. Dick. It's got the cyberpunk stuff. It's got creepy body horror. The body horror in the later movies is always condiment, if you know what I'm saying. It's not inherent. It's like each one of the later Scanners movies has to tick off boxes. We got to have somebody's skin split open and veins show. We got to have a head explosion, and it's incredibly inorganic. Unless there's something about Scanners that's really interesting because they develop a world. And the funny thing is, Scanners Cop stuff is related to it. There's ephemeral, the drug and everything. And the problem is they didn't want to get too deep into it. And I do think that it credits Cronenberg for characters. But it's like Scanners, as screwy as Scanners is, as choppy as it can be, because he was writing it on the fly. He was coming in with pages that day. And the ending was not supposed to be the ending that they ended up with. But the other movies are organic and they scripted them, but they just don't have something. They're like weak metal, you know what I mean? It's like,
well, Cronenberg has such a distinct style. I mean, I wouldn't take away how visually interesting his films look, and they feel like a Cronenberg film.
Yeah.
You could obviously ape his style. So no one's going to have that. So sequels are going to, kind of.
Scanners has it. Well, that's the thing. Scanners has an adult gravity to it, and it also has a feeling of doom, even though it's not affecting the whole world. Okay. There's a real, he blows up computers through the phone. It's a bit of a goofball sequence, but it's got ideas, and also it's got Patrick McGowan. It's got, Stephen Lack is weird. It's his first film. He's an artist, but it's got Ironside is a great villain.
Oh yeah.
But it's a detached movie. It's a movie where he obviously was shooting. Ironside doesn't meet Stephen Lack until the end of the movie, which dramatically is a bit of a bummer for me. But the other Scanners films, they just don't have that gravity, and they just don't have that seriousness, even if they're showing incredibly crazy things going on. Scanner Cop, I found Scanner Cop 1 to be fun. What's weird about it is that it's not super important a plot. All the Scanners movies are about this son of a bitch is a scanner. He's gonna make more scanners. They're gonna put Canada on the
Fucking
map.
scanning.
Right. They're gonna take over the world. There's trouble a brewing. Scanner Cop 1 is about a guy who's not even a scanner, the villain, which was surprising. It's Richard Lynch, and it's got a TV movie feel. Both Scanner Cop films have this TV movie, efficient, but yeah, it's Richard Lynch is just a mad scientist, a pissed off scientist who got booted out of something or whatever, and he's working on some drug that helps him basically Manchurian candidate people.
Okay.
Through he kidnaps people. Him and his assistant, who looks like the I forget her name, the bass player, woman from Sisters of Mercy. She's all dolled out in '80s garb. They work out of a psychic, shop in downtown Canada. It's really small potatoes, except that it's like, you know what? It's like a Batman movie in some ways. He's a super criminal. Richard Lynch is a super criminal.
Right.
He's kidnapping people in the police department, injecting them with this drug that makes them very susceptible to like hypnotism and whatnot, and then telling them, conflating, like if you see a police officer's uniform, you're going to think it's a monster, or you're going to think it's a terrorist.
Okay.
So the police department starts eating its own and shoot. It's very violent. Police officers just start killing people. Normal people start killing other people. He's against the city. So it's Scanner Cop is very police versus this bad guy. And in some ways it starts off really decently, and then it kind of devolves as it turns into what looks like an episode of Kolchak. Driving around trying to get clues. They got the main part of the story that costs money out of the way, but it's kind of like going up against it feels like a pilot for a TV show.
Yeah.
Scanners fight crime.
Yeah, I mean the thing that I always thought was really fascinating about Scanners, the original Scanners, to me, is that it's weird how you have this idea that the ephemeral is kind of like thalidomide, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you have a drug that was given to people that was supposed to be safe, that had these horrible side effects, but now they make you mutants and they give you powers, and it's oddly creepy, even with a not well thought out story structure. Just that there might be kids over here and their parents, and these people
Right.
were affected here, and this is what's going on. I think it works.
I think in the first movie he realizes there's a kid inside this woman's womb.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the thing that Cronenberg does is that even in his small, no budget way, he opens up the world that way. He gives you when he shows all the people that Patrick McGowan is working with as in his workspace, all the other scanners and whatnot. It really just the little bits of dialogue that some of the agents and non-scanners talk about. You get a sense of, it feels like a science fiction novel. It feels like there's a world developing.
Yeah.
Which is what's interesting. The other movies have a world that's developed.
Well, isn't it mostly?
And they can't show it.
It mostly really is. We have powers. It's like, what can we do with the power instead of these powers are fucked up and you know.
Later on, it becomes cops and robbers with scanners, and it becomes, in fact, I think the last Scanner Cop film, they basically dispense with ephemeral being necessary at all.
Okay.
And it's like happy day scanning. There's scanning. There's basically there's a two of the main the female lead in Scanner Cop 2 is running a dispensary for ephemeral. The government backed this. Yeah, I know that people go to this place and just get ephemeral because there's so many scanners floating. It's a really again, if you watch Scanner Cop and think of it as a pilot, a TV pilot, and the second one is the Night Strangler, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just they run it into the ground. There's just Scanner Cop 2 is just two people staring at each other and making the scanner face, seemingly for like an hour.
Okay.
They hire villains based on their ability to shake their cheeks and make their neck muscles pop. It's just not. I feel like Scanners is really due for a remake. because. But the problem is, all anybody ever did was make actors swell, get red in the face, and make crazy faces as they scan at each other. The ending of Scanning Cop 2 is extremely unsatisfying.
Okay.
It's just cop stuff. They run out. It's just, you can see why it's the last thing that they made. But for a movie with 5, the sequels are not ever as embarrassing as Amityville horror movies get, and I'm not using that as a segue.
Well, thank God.
But
here is
I know.
Did you?
I've never seen that.
You know, I tried to watch it. Maybe
I thought that was his first movie. I thought that was the.
I don't think so. I'm looking at his IMDb page, and I will.
Didn't Don Coscarelli also make a driving film? Was Kenny and Company a driving film, or was that a kid film?
Geez, I don't know. No, he made Shivers and Rabid before that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's
I rewatched Rabid recently, and I liked it more than when I first saw it. I liked Rabid. Again, It's choppy. I mean, you can see the budget.
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, I obviously have issues with him as a director, so that has to come through in what I talk about.
Yeah, I think Rabid is really creepy. If nothing else, it's creepy and has some really great scenes. It kind of spins its wheels towards the end. He's not sure. He doesn't have the budget to do Shivers, which is where he seems to be going with the mall scenes.
Right. Well,
and when he tries to open it up to show the city being under deluge, he really can't pull it off. But it's a neat little. It's just
I like Shivers more than I like Rabid.
I like Shivers too, but Shivers has a bunch of scenes where he just goes, "Let's do." He just has what about this? What if all the Shivers people hide over that hill, so when the actor gets out of the pool, they can all jump up? Why would they do? What's going on there? The Shivers stuff has a lot of haunted, like you're walking through a haunted house. People are just here's the next set piece. Shivers has a lot of great stuff in it. It's really creepy, but again, and he really does. He knows how to open his movies. Yeah. I mean, Shivers opens on an absolutely shocking scene, and the whole opening with the rabbit is pretty neat. It's slow and then boom. I like his stuff.
Well, I want to go back and rewatch The Fly, because The Fly is a movie that I never think about as being one of his movies.
I always forget about The Fly, and I always forget about Dead Zone.
Yeah, and it seems to me like The Fly is perfect. We're gonna, how do you remake? It's another 80s horror classic remake with the director's spin on it. And I mean, I remember really liking it, but
I remember loving The Fly.
Yeah. Fly 2, not so much.
I've never seen it. It's got what's his face in it? Eric Stoltz?
Or someone close to that.
I think
it is
Eric
Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz. I get itchy. Eric Stoltz actually makes me unhappy.
You're allergic to Eric Stoltz?
Yeah, Andrew McCarthy's another one where I really have to. I gotta go. I can't. Like irritable bowels, irritable Eric Stoltz syndrome. I shit myself when Eric Stoltz is around.
It's all those guys you fucking hated.
The Fly is fascinating for me because he has 2 really great character actors in it. He's got 2 good characters and 2 good actors. And none of his movies before that really has warm actors in it, for lack of a better way of putting it. He has a lot of, the most human of his actors in some ways is James fucking Woods, who is a horrible wooden troll.
Oliver Reed? You don't find Oliver Reed?
Oliver Reed. Okay, I'll give you Oliver Reed, except he's not given a role that he can do much with.
I went to rewatch The Brood a couple of weeks ago.
I love The Brood.
And I like The Brood too. And there was so much yelling at the beginning. I was like, oh man, I just don't want to hear yelling right now. I'll rewatch this.
Sure. Yeah.
But The Brood is fucking disturbing and
The Brood is super disturbing. The Brood is super, super disturbing. I think The Brood has some of the quietest, nasty horror set pieces. Just the scenes of that scene on the road where they're walking with her. The 2 Brood characters are walking.
I believe I remember it.
Terrifying. Yeah. It's something Romero can do sometimes in some of his better films, but I think The Brood is for good or bad, because it feels like a misogynistic film to me. And he wrote it while he was really fucked up and angry over his divorce.
Right.
But it gives it a propulsion that a lot of horror movies just don't have. But it's got scenes in it that are heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think of
Yeah, I haven't seen great. But for me, The Fly, one of the things that works about The Fly is that it's one of his first films that has a real sense of humor and sense of human characters. I mean, I like Dead Zone a lot, but Christopher Walken is an odd duck.
Right.
He's a strange character in that movie.
Yeah.
And none of the other characters, other than his love interest, his former love interest, really have a sense of humanity to them. The child that he bonds with, that he's fired from being his caretaker or friend or whatever, is pretty cool. But there's an episodic quality of Dead Zone that kind of doesn't allow him to hook up with a character that kind of humanizes him more. He's like a fish out of water because of everything.
Right.
And Chris Walken is really good in that movie, but he's icy. It's an icy film. And people always talk about Cronenberg's films being cold. I think they're cold, but I'm fine with that. But The Fly is not a cold movie.
Yeah.
You've got.
I like Cronenberg a lot as an actor.
Well, I've only seen him as a guy with buttons on his. I don't think I've seen him in anything else.
He's terrific in that movie.
He's the best thing in the movie.
He did by
That
far.
character is terrifying.
Yeah.
If they made a sequel to Nightbreed, I don't want to see Mac tonight and
Yeah, that was the weirdest.
the Jim Rose Circus down there. I want to see the button-headed guy. I'm surprised they haven't done that.
I absolutely love the novella it's based on. I think the theatrical. Yeah, I think
I still have to read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. Or I thought so. The theatrical cut of Nightbreed stinks, but I think that the director's cut is somewhat better. Yes, he is in Jason X. He shows up.
Is he?
Yeah, but like I think in the very beginning, right? He shows up.
I think Jason X is a movie that's super maligned for all the wrong reasons. It's not a great movie by any means, but I think it's a good pop.
I like
movie.
it. I like it.
I remember you got a hold of a copy before it hit theaters, and we were like, "This is a fun, stupid movie." If you're gonna say that this is the worst thing in the Friday the 13th series, and you're because man, people are angry about that movie, and then you're gonna talk about Jason Takes Manhattan as being this piece of filmic something, which is just, I mean, Jason Takes Manhattan is such a bad fucking movie. But anyway, we've talked about that at length on episode something. I don't know, 13.
Oh yeah, I never remember. This is our 12th one of these, and we did 20 episodes of the show. Yeah, we've done like 32 fucking stupid things.
Now we can't think of what to do.
Well, it's only because we haven't seen a movie. You know, we could have done a movie on. If it wasn't just a horror podcast, mostly we would have done New York Ninja. You know,
we could have argued about the Suspiria remake, and we could have. And what did I watch? I watched the Suspiria remake, which I know you liked.
Yes.
And I had serious problems with, and Dr. Sleep, which I enjoyed but didn't think was very good.
Right, and I'm wondering if you had seen the uncut version of that, or the director's cut, which I think
it was 2.5 fucking hours. I don't want to see it.
It might be longer than that, and I really, like I said, those are also movies that are enjoyable. Both of those movies have facets that I enjoy that have nothing to do with just the experience of watching those films. How they reflect on source material and original material.
But I found Dr. Sleep was a terrific example of art direction and threading the needle between the book and the first movie, because people know millions of people know both or all, and I thought it was a satisfying mix of them. But I also thought it just had so many fucking problems. I really liked so many things about it, but I didn't like the ending. I thought it was well executed, but I didn't like the story. I thought the art direction, I thought the villains were terrible. I honestly thought that they were just.
I really like her. I forget her name.
Ferguson. I thought she was a good actress, but I thought the characters basically, if you watch that movie, they fuck up everything except for kidnapping kids. They're like incompetent, but they talk about being thousands of years old, and they've got Carol Stryken coughing in the background, and they're hippies, and they know everything, and they drive around. They reminded me of the villains from Mandy once they started getting their heads handed to them.
That's interesting. Yeah.
You know, when they beat your girlfriend and put her in a bag and set her on fire, they're tough guys.
I think the
when somebody who knows how to fight shows up, they fucking completely fall apart. Now in Mandy, you at least have those monsters running around to lend muscle. In this one, your main character, the girl with the hat, and I fucking hated her hat. I mean, I know that's not a big deal, but that's Stephen King stuff. The stuff I didn't like about
what I was going to say is I think the problem and the where Dr. Sleep works is it really reminds you of Stephen King. The things that he does really, really well, and the things that he stinks at.
Yeah, so the stuff that he's terrible at.
Like the fact that, for instance, the characters from The Shining call the ability The Shining, but these other people don't. Because in a world where this would happen, there would be different mythologies and stories about it. And the way that was, I think, really worked well.
I thought the world building was pretty good.
But the affectations of I have this hat and I'm the one that does this feels like it works better in a book than it does in a movie.
I thought a lot of it. I thought that we talked about this when we were hanging out at Brian's house briefly. I thought that the effect, the way that the villains withdrew the soul, withdrew the shining or the life essence out of people, probably works. As I'm watching it, I'm laughing because I thought it looked ridiculous. A bunch of people are sniffing coke out of people's bodies, you know, with glowing cocaine is coming out of these kids' faces, and everybody's having this, you know. And I was like, this is embarrassing. Okay, I feel like I'm watching Woodstock '99 here. This is just awful. But in a book, I can see that working because your mind will not have to sit through the CGI glowing effect coming out of a kid's nostrils while a bunch of actors are snorting shit up. And they do it over, and they're, you know, it does not work. And for me, the same way that the superhero aspects of Dr. Sleep in the movie,
well, that's
flying through the air and tilting the house, exactly. And I didn't want to see a comic book movie.
I really like those effects. I found that I did not expect that, and I felt some of the tilting stuff was an interesting way of doing it.
I thought some of the tilting worked fine. I thought that flying out of people's houses and being an airplane and looking like some AT&T We Connect the World ad, and she shows up in the girl's room, and they have. And I also think here's another sense of Stephen King with his out of touch. Whenever he does rock and roll or he tries to write black people, you want Stephen King to get a reader. You know what I mean? You're just like Stephen. You're an old white guy. You never hip even when you were writing your earliest books. The way you write about music is cringe-inducing. The way you write about the blues or about black people in general is fucking cringe-inducing. Please get a fucking reader for this stuff. But then you've got the girl who's what do you call them? She's not a shiner, but the girl with the power, her mental files that the hat goes through, why are they old wooden fucking file cabinets from the 20s? Wouldn't they be computer things? I don't know anything about computers, but a teenage girl her brain would not be visually set up to be an archaic filing system,
unless that's not how she sees her brain, but how
they don't
sees her brain.
I mean, but they're saying she has a library. The hat has a library. She's an old character. I get it. You remember the girl goes and steals something from her library. I get that. She's some old lich woman. They're all old. They've been around forever. So she's got some ancient filing system. But when she gets into the girl's filing system, because they have to visualize it, why would the girl have an archaic? You know, what would this young girl know mentally about what looks like the Dewey Death?
You did not see the director's cut edition. I'm looking at the time thing. So yeah.
How would that scene be changed though?
I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is it's kind of hard for me. It's hard for me to argue with you about things that didn't feel like it had connective tissue.
I thought a lot of the bad King stuff came through. And I thought going to the Overlook was a good plot idea, but I thought that the whole movie gets thrown off because they have to go do a Disneyland ride through the entire Overlook for you, the fan. It's clear that the director's a fan, you're a fan, you want to see the Overlook. We reproduce the Overlook. Look, here's a Jack Nicholson stand-in. Look, here's all the action figures.
So did that bother you? Did that guy bother you?
No,
okay.
Not really, because if I don't have a problem with another person playing another person, even if they didn't do a good job, I wouldn't care. I thought it was an interesting scene. I don't know if it was necessary. It seemed kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I don't think Stephen King knows how to write screenplays or dialogue for film, but he's so popular that you have to do what's, I mean, the thing is, this was a film that King had say in.
Yeah.
You know, they bowed to him in things. That doesn't mean that he was like fighting them but I mean, you watch anything that Stephen King wrote as a screenplay, and the dialogue is usually.
I just recently saw a really interesting video talking about the Shining miniseries, right? And it's so bad.
Which one is this? Is this the one that had like CGI traffic signs?
Well, it has CGI topiary shit.
Is this the one that Mick Garris made? Or is this
maybe
the new?
I think there is only one Shining miniseries so far from the 90s that Stephen King.
Okay, I turned it off because they started having stop signs that made evil faces and shit.
Yeah, it is.
It was terrible.
You can't. The funny thing is, you're Stephen King. You have issues with The Shining, which I could perfectly see, because The Shining book is my favorite horror book, and that Shining movie is not that book. It's a great horror book movie. It might be the greatest horror movie ever made, but it's just not that book. I see that you fight the author, and
I still think he's being a big baby about it, but whatever.
But I don't think. But the thing is, I would think if you're going to try to present, I mean, it's so ugly looking, and The Shining is beautiful beyond belief, that there wouldn't be a part of you that says no one's going to want to watch this because it looks like a shitty 90s miniseries.
I remember when I was a kid, when I was younger, and I remember people bitching about that the topiary wasn't in the movie.
Right.
And I thought to myself, my God, that would have been so cool if they did do it, though. It didn't. But then I got older, and I was like, the shrubbery animals coming after you would make me laugh. It's great in the book.
Yeah.
And the thing about the book, one of my favorite scenes in the book is just the one where the elevator opens up and there's party confetti and stuff. Because there's one where the elevator opens up and there's signs that people were in there coming out of a party. There was like confetti and a the what do you call those things that unfurl? Well, you know what I'm saying. And I just thought that was really creepy. That this bizarre time travel ghost shit was going on. Very simple. The thing about King is sometimes King can do good. He writes so fucking much, and he has a lot of good ideas, but sometimes I feel like he doesn't know what a bad idea is. I think sometimes he has a very meat and potatoes idea of horror. The traffic sign will morph from saying dead end or something to you're dead. Now, that's, I forget exactly what it was, but it was almost that on the nose stupid.
Yeah.
Just because you have CGI doesn't mean you immediately go get your topiary out. I like the visualizing in Dr. Sleep of the mental, they went through it. They had, you got to visualize, if you want to visualize somebody rifling through a psychic's head, it makes sense. Okay, you got a library for her. You've got file cases for the girl. I don't think that worked, but showing it on a computer probably would have looked really stupid, even though it should have been a computer. Kids know computers. They think in terms of computers. If you tell a kid of this day and age, file and save, they're going to think of a computer. They're not going to think of what we had in file cabinets in an office back in the day. But whatever, it's visual. It's physical and visual. Got it. Shit, I lost track of where I was going with it. Oh, the little treasure boxes, the places that Danny was taught to put his bad thoughts, for lack of a better way of putting it, in those trunks. It kind of by visualizing those things, it was Chekhov's trunks. You knew right from literally like 10 minutes into the movie, you're like, well, here's what we'll be seeing at the end. The end dragged so long. I'm just looking at the carpet and the wallpaper. There's nothing to do. I mean, why would there need to be a trigger for the villain to get attacked until we've seen our entire bump, until we've gone through the ride? Why didn't they just attack her right then and there before you know what I mean? If they wanted her, why didn't they take her? Because we had to have all this drama and we had to get through the sets that they built. I mean, the place looked fantastic. And I got to say, going to the Overlook was like a really good holy shit moment.
Yeah, well, I think that's
great. It felt like, and then it turns out the Overlook really is the villain of the movie. Once again, just like the first movie. And to me, it was another thing that knocked down the Enclave, the cultists, as a threat. I mean, they did really good against the kids that they kidnapped. And they did really bad against the adults who had power and the girl who had power. They fucked up left and right. I mean, they fucked up over and over. All of them made mistakes by being overconfident. From the beginning, the Hat gets fucked over in the grocery store. She goes back, tells her boyfriend, I got fucked over in the grocery store. They're really powerful. And they keep getting fucked over.
And just because they're not very good villains,
I'm sorry. A 2.5 hour movie, I would like my James Bond and their henchmen of this piece to be better at their job.
Well, but I feel that but I do feel like the main characters do feel like they're in peril from them. They might not be the greatest villains, but I do feel like
I'm not the main character. I'm watching the movie. I'm not the main character. Of course they're in peril because we killed Dad because they fucked up too. They didn't tell Dad to go get a hotel room.
Right.
You kind of saw all this shit coming, but the villains don't do a single thing against anyone with power correctly. And that's like to me, that's like setting up WrestleMania 17 with all these how big and bad the heel is, and then the heel gets his ass kicked.
Oh, okay.
So
it's just a personal thing.
I thought they were ineffective villains. Yeah, and I think that the villains have to come up. They have to step up. They kidnap a kid at the beginning. They kidnap the baseball kid in the scene. It's way too long. I also wish that kid got a ride home, but whatever. It's 2020 fucking 3. I don't know who the hell sends their kids to walk miles home from the baseball game, but that's whatever. And I think that's the only times that they actually fully pull off their plans. And they don't learn from she gets fucked by the girl when she kicks her out of her mind. She gets fucked Hat gets fucked in the grocery store. And she's even warning him, these guys are powerful. And then the first time that the troops go out, they get routed. I mean, they don't. And then she falls. So it's not a big deal that she falls for the final ploy, especially when you know what it is.
Okay.
Again, yes, I am picking the shit out of it apart, but I was really disappointed with the last hour and a half of it. I really liked the first hour or so. I liked Danny's story.
I found it. Yeah, I found it a really good redemption story for Danny.
Yes,
and I think it's interesting to see that character grown up and
that's my favorite part. That's my favorite part.
Miserable and horrible, and him trying to get his life together and being drawn into something that he really doesn't want to, but feels like he's responsible for. The book, which I did not read, is significantly different in its ending than the movie. And I think I by far prefer the book's ending.
Well, the movie gives him his ending that he wanted from the first movie.
Right.
Boiler. I kind of didn't understand the ending. I really felt like Danny could have gotten out of there very easily. Okay. He gave up, but I couldn't tell whether they were choosing that or not.
I think so. I think that was the intention.
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of bothered me in a way. I don't think it would have been a terrible thing for him to have gotten through the movie. He gets his ass kicked. So, I mean, I really like the first hour a lot. I think the storytelling's tight. I think the acting's really good. I liked you get all that stuff that obviously is coming from King about being an alcoholic and a drug addict. And I thought those scenes worked well. I felt really bad for his friend because his friend just put a target on his back really. you know, I just, yeah, I felt bad for that guy. But I mean, but that's the thing. I liked the side characters. That was the thing that I also felt the Stephen King stuff that comes through. King can set up a side character in 2 pages that you feel like you can see this person and understand what they're like. They might be a good person. They might be a good guy or a bad guy or indifferent. But he draws a type. He draws a character really well quickly, and he can get you to like them. You know, all the characters in Salem's Lot, all the characters in The Shining that show up, you really like them as a group. And I felt that the young girl was not developed as well. It's hard to develop a young character. It really is. You know what I mean? There's limits that you can do with the acting. Yeah. There's limits you can do with what you can do. She disappears for chunks of the movie. It's a big movie. But I thought the opening was terrific. Even the stuff that even the stuff that was for me in the movie that was telegraphed, a few things, who was going to die, the trick that they were going to do about the death or whatever, were fine because they felt right. In the first half, I really liked the Shelley Duvall actress was terrific.
Oh yeah, wasn't she?
Amazing. Yeah. I was like, holy shit, they're going for it.
And I like the Holland. I always forget his name. Scatman Crothers played him in the movie Holland.
I don't remember. I don't know the actor, but he's good.
Right. But the character. Do you remember the character's name? It's
Han.
Oh God, I hate being old, Evan.
I don't remember. Oh no,
he's one of my favorite characters. It's one of
it's Halloran.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about doing things dirty and weird. I mean, you know, watching The Shining and having that character treated the way it is after that book. I mean, I love that character.
No, I thought that character came off for one of King's noble people of color. I don't like the way he writes people of color on the whole, but I thought Dick Halloran was a really good character. Hi, Stevie. I thought it was interesting, though. I thought one of the things that they did that was an interesting choice was turning Danny into Dick Halloran in this film.
Yeah.
I thought that worked from a variety of for several reasons. It helps alleviate the magical Negro aspect of him in the movie and the book, that other people can take on this role, that he's not just that character. But he is a good character. I really liked him a lot. And the movie was, I'm not sure if I like that scene. I don't think it's necessary. It's a scary scene because it's a sucker punch scene. Which pillar? What's going on? But it just feels like such a long, drawn out joke.
Right. Kind of like your dissatisfaction with the efficiency of the villains in Dr. Sleep. It feels to me like this character is built up for something to be like, it's kind of like an artsy jump scare.
To me, it is a jump scare, but I think it's a sick joke with a long setup and kind of dumb punchline. I mean, you get to see Dick Halloran travel for like 20 minutes of screen time, and he doesn't have to come in and like save the day. But I mean, in a book, I would have found that interesting. In a movie, even if I think it's interesting and it's an assumption based on movies we've seen, here's a guy who's he's driving over he's flying in the storm. He gets into the crawler. He's waiting at places. He's dealing with this, and he shows up and literally gets, bombed. He gets taken out. I mean, it's like a Monty Python joke.
Yeah.
It seems cruel, and it also seems not worth the setup.
Yeah.
And you just feel terrible. And maybe that was the point. He really wanted to manipulate you into thinking this character was going to have more of a role, but it doesn't always work that way. I've never liked it. I would have been happy if the character never came back.
Right. And I just feel like making it just, Kubrick's insistence on doing whatever he needs to do with the supernatural elements of The Shining, however he decides to handle it, just kind of makes I think the ending is fucking stupid of the movie.
Well,
I think it's fucking stupid.
I like The Shining enough that it overrides the ending for me, because I think the ending is really boring, and just it's not a good solution to.
It is
I
no
don't want
solution. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't need the topiary animals,
No.
and I'm fine with the Overlook not blowing up.
And I don't need the croquet mallets
No,
instead of
but
that. I don't need all the trappings. But the
the
thing
kid
is,
goofs on his dad, and dad freezes. He even looks silly. That last shot of him that's supposed to be
yeah,
scary.
yeah.
So, so it's funny. I dislike the ending of The Shining so much that I was really unhappy to see them using it.
Yeah, that's
It-
true. Yeah, he has like naked lady. Yeah, I remember that. That is awesome.
I didn't like them going into the maze in Doctor Sleep. I thought, if you're gonna bring shit back, you don't need to be in that maze again, because it was boring the first time.
Yeah, I think to me, The Shining is a great horror movie because it's actually fucking frightening. You
Yes.
watch it and it's scary and there's disturbing scenes and it makes you uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
the looking in the to me the looking in the door, the guy in the dog suit on
Yeah.
his knees, and that is just such a jarring, frightening scene.
Yeah.
Like, I realized the last thing that frightened me in a movie, not that I'm a tough guy, but the thing that really got to me was in Mulholland Drive. There's a famous jump scare
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
that is.
Yeah.
I saw it on TV and it's fucking like unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are scenes, the naked lady scenes in that as a kid.
And that's one of the things in Doctor Sleep that I thought that nothing in Doctor Sleep was scary. And I would like to have had like one really scary.
Yeah,
looking.
yeah,
I did like the bathroom sequence, the bathroom, which going real quick, the opening I thought was actually good and creepy though. The hag woman in the bathroom that he still had to deal with. The idea that the house was able to send out its agents or whatever to haunt the people. I didn't really want to see the best of The Shining cover band at the end, if you know what I mean. I didn't need to see those beloved monsters from the Overlook actually out of, coming together as a group of creepy crawlies. You know what I'm saying? I did not need to see the Shining cosplayed.
right.
And they're all, little monsters. That didn't work for me.
Right.
The fact that now that there are a presence that actually comes out and attacks you.
Well, I mean, if Stephen King is going to write a sequel to the Shining, and it's going to be important that they go back to the Overlook, even though the Overlook doesn't exist anymore book-wise.
Yeah.
He is definitely doing fan service to that original.
Well, I think that he does fan service to himself. I think he is. I think one of the problems with King is that he's a fan in some ways. He does fan service to his books and ideas. He's like, I'm going to have all of the vampires in Salem, all the kid vampires are going to be sitting in the bus, because I love EC Comics. And it's like, I love that scene when I was a kid and I read it as an adult. And I went, this makes no fucking sense. Sometimes no sense is cool. But Dr. Sleep and The Shining is not schlock. It's not Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things or The Children, where, you go, this makes no sense that they all decided to talk about how they're going to scare a character as if they're in a movie.
Right.
But, I mean, he has some base tendencies. And I think that it kind of, I don't know. I think that ultimately a movie where the main villain is the house is going to have some problems, because houses have to manifest stuff.
Well, the problem is if the main villain is, but see, that's the thing. That's what makes The Shining so fascinating. You think it's the house and it's not.
But the house has somebody to work through and work with.
But when the house is destroyed in the book, there's still influence. There's still going on. So whatever is going on, yes, the house is like a battery and it amplifies and it does something, but it is not. I think it's an interesting way that King deconstructs the haunted house trope and the haunted house, kind of story motifs, and he makes it interesting. The thing about the movie is it's not it is the house, or it's the ghosts, or it's not the ghosts, or it's the past, or it
I
isn't
feel
the
like
past.
well, he does that in Salem's Lot too. He likes to.
Yeah, that's
You know, there's a battery and people did bad shit, and it's all everything's on burial ground, and.
But I think talking about this is a perfect example of how, if you love Stephen King, if Stephen King is, and there's times we've all probably loved Stephen King.
Sure.
I right now cannot watch Ray Bradbury theater. Like Ray Bradbury theater is popping up on things. And I went to watch it again, and I can't take his dialogue spoken out of people anymore.
I think he's another one who I think there's a reason he hasn't translated well to. Is there really a top of the line, everyone agrees, beloved Ray Bradbury film? Because people really are. I liked scenes from the Disney. I mean, he's somebody who's hard to adapt.
If I'm correct, and I could be wrong because I'm mostly wrong about things. Yes, the Overlook is obviously destroyed in The Shining, but at the end of Dr. Sleep, it is manifested again. So yes,
they don't. Yeah, because the thing is, it's a sequel to the movie, but they have two masters to.
Well, it's a sequel to a book. It's a sequel to a book, and it's a sequel to a movie that have changes. So in the movie, the Overlook survives. The boilers don't blow up. But in the movie, it blows up. But they still
in the book it blows up.
Blows up. And in the sequel book, it manifests.
I didn't know that. Something Wicked This Way. Yeah, thank you. Which there are two versions of, by the way. And if you ever want to see a really strange but not so bad it's good film, there is a British Something Wicked This Way Comes, which was made for about 12p, and I sat through it, and it's fascinating only because it really does look like a local theater group did it and decided to film it. But his language has dated, and while I love a lot of it in prose, Bradbury doesn't come across well. Bradbury it's like King in a way.
My five favorite books of all time are Breakfast of Champions by Vonnegut, Bluebeard, Catch-22, Murder is a Lonely Business, and Something Wicked This Way Comes. I love the book. I think it's absolutely.
I think it's terrific. But
I think the movie kind of just doesn't look right or something.
I think that the problem I had with something I saw it when it came out, and I thought the best scene.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Thank you.
I feel like I have to read Dr. Sleep just because I like The Shining a lot, book and movie.
Yeah.
In Something Wicked This Way Comes, I don't think they knew how to do the supernatural and horror elements very well. I thought that they did a good job on the childhood in October in a small town. I like the scene where Jonathan Pryce and Jason. I like the scene where he offers him years of his life,
and he's ripping the book up.
That is a terrific scene. The dialogue works because that character is sort of archaic and talks in a specialized way. He's theatrical, but the film doesn't have bite.
Exactly. There's a scene in the book, which is in the movie, where the two children are hiding.
Yes.
And they're under a grate.
Grate.
And the father comes up. Now the father's Jason Robards in the book. He is older. He is frailer, right? And the father is basically Nightshade, right? He's telling him, I don't know these people because I think he opens his palms and there's tattoos
he shows
of the children.
Faces kid,
right, and he knows it, and it's like, and the line in the book is, I looked up with my father. He was always small, but he was tall now. He was.
It's a terrific
unbelievable, unbelievable.
because
Does not
the
translate in the movie.
the father groks to what's going on and steps up.
Yeah.
And who doesn't wish that their parents,
Yeah.
especially if you're a kid.
Yeah.
This is a different podcast. Especially if you're a kid whose parents never seemed tall to you. I'm not speaking for both of them. I'm speaking for myself. My father only seemed tall to me once in my life, and it was nothing like Jason Rose. It was nothing like the Ray Brad. It was not a life changing or a new way of seeing him. He just picked two bullies up by the scruff who were beating me up, and he did that father thing correctly. That was it, though. That was it in the whole life. But that scene in the book has so much good going on, story-wise, character-wise, larger than life-wise. Like a movie, I don't know who can do that. Somebody might be able to.
I think that if you want to take what's best out of that book, it can't be a surface adaptation.
No.
It can't be just like, what's the carnival look like? What's
going to happen. Guillermo del Toro is going to remake it,
and
it'll look beautiful,
look gorgeous, and be soulless.
I have to see more of his stuff.
Yeah, well, another one. It's like Kubrick. There isn't one film of his that I don't have problems with because of just the way he directs, and Del Toro too. I mean, I love Kronos, and so many of his other movies. They're beautiful, but they leave me cold. There's just this detachment for me.
My problem with Del Toro is that it's like he makes beautiful I'm trying to think of the word. What are the automatons? They look beautiful but they move stiffly and they leave me with nothing. Those old chess playing automatons or one of those things. I didn't like the TV Martian Chronicles, but I also saw it when it first came out, and that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I always felt that was weird. They redo most of that, if not all of that in the TV show. They kind of remake all of those stories.
I remember watching the Martian Chronicles and just wishing it was like, be better. But this is the old one with Rock Hudson, I think, and
Rock Hudson and
Bernadette Peters, and
it's funny. I don't know how far behind Stevie is in the stream, but I'm trying to think. She had actually, was it Martian Chronicles or another book? She wrote to the publisher. It turns out they had, for editions, they had left out the last sentence of a short story.
What?
And just forgot about it in a Ray Bradbury thing. Yeah, and she read it. She went, "No, isn't that?" And she wound up finding this. They just didn't catch it.
It's a good thing me and Brian didn't find that drunk, or else we would have called up the publishers. Fine, like we did with that Avengers episode.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I think that, what's interesting? I think Bradbury's stuff worked really well in a lot of the radio adaptations because they were spoken. And you're able to buy into that flow of dialogue and the poetry.
You're detached from the reality. If the more you try to anchor, for me, Bradbury stuff to reality, it doesn't work. It's all about people that love feels and talk in nice ways and are sad about things, and it's like, oh, that's an interesting science fiction idea, or that's I mean, think of
or every once in a while
it was a line in the Martian Chronicles.
Every once in a while, Ray Bradbury surprises you by sticking a shiv in your neck. So, you know what I mean? He'll have some story that's absolutely like fucked up. Like,
I always think whatever the Martian Chronicles story is about the guy who's alone and is going after the phone with literally a bad punchline ending to it.
Yeah,
it's like, holy shit, Bradbury.
Yeah, that one's actually, well, they changed it. The thing is, they changed it for the miniseries.
Yeah,
in a kind of really ickier way. I think it's because she's overweight, and I think in the book it's just that she's annoying.
I'm not sure, but
I think they needed to visualize it more in the. God,
what's the last time you read Bradbury? Any Bradbury?
I read Bradbury I end up a lot of his older work because it shows up in anthologies that
Okay.
I'm picking up and whatnot. So I mean, some of it's his. He hasn't really gotten up to speed, and he's not doing the poetry. People aren't talking like poets and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Bradbury. You get older, and Bradbury has a little less of an effect maybe on you, but
So
on
for me, the
he can,
reason
he
I
can
the
he can do
reason
terrific things on the page that just don't work visually
the reason I
or
bring it up
spoken
is
word.
when I'm watching the Bradbury Theater and stuff, and there's stories that I really love. There's just the tone of it. I'm at that point of my life where I cannot. It
Yeah.
takes me out of it. I'm not thinking about the
I never
story or
watched.
the items.
I've only seen like 5 minutes of one because I think Diane Franklin's in it. And this is back in the day where there was a lot less things to do in the world. And if you saw Diane Franklin was in something and you're a lonely jerk,
It was just her birthday the other day.
oh boy. But yeah, he just. I mean, the Twilight Zone episode almost kind of works because.
Well, I Dream the Body Electric.
Yeah,
It's
but
fable-like. It doesn't feel. It's like ooh,
right. There's
you know.
a kind of like kids TV show aspect of it that works for it,
Yeah, yeah.
but it still doesn't. Bradbury's world is a strange one. There's a cynicism there, but there's also the fable, and there's also the fable of middle white America.
Right.
Liberal white America that loves the good things and fights for the good things, and some of that comes off also kind of stiff because we know more about the world now too.
Yeah, yeah. That's true.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see an animated or a theatrical take on Bradbury, where the whole world is created that in a different way. So possibly the unrealistic or the magic realism of it or what have you. But yeah, Bradbury, I like. Vonnegut's another one that doesn't seem to.
Every day. Oh right. Yeah, Stevie, do you remember the title of that? I call out. It's funny. But yeah, there's
Fuck This Weather. I think this was Fuck This Weather by Ray Bradbury.
Right, but there's always that's the
Mars Sucks. Was it Mars is Heaven? Mars is Heaven is crazy. Is that the one? I don't think I don't know. I don't think it's the Martian Chronicles. I think it's a pulp science fiction of the crew that lands on what seems to be their hometown, Middle America. They know all the people are coming, and they're like, "This is heaven," and it's fuck you'sville.
Yeah.
I hated that one when I read it as a kid because I was like, it's such an evil. It's kind of semi. I've never seen Freddy's Nightmares.
I love it in a weird way. It is such a weird.
Now, what is it? Is it an anthology that he hosts?
It's interesting. It's both. There are episodes like what's his name? Craven, I think, directed an episode which is the origin of Freddy Krueger. It shows the trial. It shows him out of.
Does it have child fucking in it?
Very little. And,
Okay.
Oh wait, Stevie has the answer. Thank you, Stevie.
All Summer in a Day. He was great at titles.
He was
great at titles.
And
thank you, Stevie.
Yeah.
Stevie, can you get me a soda?
No, I want tea.
I'm out of drinky. I'm out of drinks. Drinky. What the fuck am I?
But yeah, what was I going to say?
Freddy's Nightmares.
Freddy's Nightmares. So they do the origin, but he also comes in as like sometimes. The weird thing is there are some episodes, or all of them. Oh God, help
I've never
me.
seen it. I don't
that
even know.
That kind of link. So you have a fucked up episode where it's like, oh, what happens? And there's a guy whose premonitions or weird shit's happening as he's working the window of a burger joint overnight. And then that links to the second story with another character. And it's just, it's interesting. And it's not good. I think they said that like he was like he'd be making movies and he'd run to the set and he'd do this. It's just I'm fascinated by the machine that became Freddy Krueger, the horrible child murdering guy who had a sticker book.
Becomes a plush toy and a series of trading cards, and he's like the comedian murderer.
Toby Hooper.
It is so weird. I forgot completely that there was a TV series about that. I kind of want to revisit the Friday the 13th series.
Well, it was funny. One of the things I thought about is when I look at the numbers we do on the podcast, I was like, should we do a Friday the 13th podcast? I don't. I would want to rewatch them because I don't want it to be another Phantasm where I'm like, I don't remember this fucking movie at all. But I don't know if I want to rewatch all those movies.
I've only seen maybe. I've seen less than 20 of them. I didn't dislike. The thing that turned me off to that show is that I caught the pilot. I was all excited because anything, it was still made when science fiction, horror, geek stuff was still rare. That you could prepare for everything that was going to be on broadcast TV. You'd be like,
yeah.
There's not much coming out. They bring fucking Galactica 80 on, and people are excited because there's nothing. So Friday the 13th, and it was syndicated. It was kind of late at night, so I was around. And I remember I think the pilot was the one that, it was like, wasn't it like the guy's brother? The guy who, Marshak, his brother, and he's this actor who's in a ton of things. I can't remember. And there was a little person assisting him. And it was really bad, I thought.
I'm gonna admit this live. I phased out and was looking at something. What the fuck are you talking about?
The pilot for Friday the 13th, the series.
Oh, okay, Friday the 13th. Sorry.
I think that
as
a character actor who's been in a lot of these things. He's a wizard. I think he's Marshak's brother. And he's got a little person assistant.
Okay.
Does that ring any bells?
Not at all.
And it's really cheesy and really bad. And I didn't watch the show because of how bad it was. And then I checked in. I don't know. I was bored, I guess. I watched an episode. I was like, this was dumb fun, There's a dentist chair. There's a this. There's
and it was predictable. It's like, it's a teacup, but if you cut it and get blood on it, this happens. Or
don't the vines do something? The vines on the teacup do something.
Fucking stupid.
And then Roby has a hair thing, and you go,
right, she's got huge hair. How do you keep your hair so high, Roby?
Boing, and and I like the guy who was in it, and he's likable enough. He's kind of like Earth 2 John Cusack.
No, he was very likable. When he left the series, I felt like, why the fuck did they continue it? It made no sense.
Yeah, they ended up getting like this, hero.
Well, and they could also have romance between him and Roby because they were like cousins or,
Which was great because then you didn't have to have all the boring romance shit.
No, it was, look, there's something weird about those syndicated shows from around that time or a little, like, remember the War of the Worlds show? How crazy that was?
Didn't watch it, no.
Yeah,
no.
2 seasons that are totally different. One season's, I think, like the book, and then the second season's like this cyberpunk nightmare.
That's kind of like, you remember Buck Rogers when all of a sudden they realized this isn't working? We can't have all these exciting things happening, and we can't have all these hot men and women in outfits. We got to put them on a spaceship and isolate everything.
I don't remember.
I don't remember about any episodes. Yeah, maybe we should do a Friday the 13th. I'll watch them. It was kind of X-Files. I mean, it certainly had a great gimmick, which I wonder if they took it from the Amityville horror books because they were in them. The Amityville horror, we're getting close to Amityville horror talk again. I'm sorry. But the Amityville horror series they didn't know how to make money off of it because there's only one house. So another author started writing about fucking Amityville yard sales, which is what it should have been called. And people taking a cursed item. And it's like Friday the 13th had that. I'm sure that idea has been used before, though. Yeah. Cursed items come. But I mean, the idea that we've got this manifest of shit we got to get back from your evil brothers is terrific.
Yeah, it has all the built-in, it goes on. It's a limit, it's a list. You've got the mythology. You got to keep it in this thing. You got to do this.
It's a great reason to not have recurring characters other than the main 3 characters, and you've got a place for them to hang out. I mean, the series seemed to have done really decently, and it had that monkey at the beginning. Remember? I love the monkey. The monkey that does this.
Yeah, I haven't. When's the last time
But it's so funny because it's like, if you were watching it now, you'd go, "Why is this called Friday the 13th?"
I watched most of, but not the very end of Warehouse 13. I kind of liked Warehouse 13.
I never heard of it. I don't know it.
Yeah, it's another thing. It was
like the Indiana Jones.
No,
set up?
it's well, yeah. There's a warehouse and there's cursed items and there's the mythology of how you get that. There's anybody out there watching remember a show called The Middleman? It
I have
was a
never heard
short.
of that.
It's a short-lived film, a short-lived series. That was really interesting too. But yeah, I liked Warehouse.
When is the middleman? What's the middleman from, and what is it?
It is. I think it was one of those like UPN or things. It's
Right, right.
a woman gets linked up with a secret agent guy, but he's very old fashioned, and it's crazy secret weapons, and you know, I can't describe it. Let me bring it up.
I've never heard of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. I just remember when the dawn of this stuff, when they were starting to have weird shows showing up on UPN and Channel 11. I don't remember. Was that were they bought up by a studio? I can't remember now. Who? I have never seen any of this.
Yeah, I find the show better than I needed.
Struggling artist. Wait, was that a monkey?
Yeah, it's crazy. The woman who was in this was just in a movie I watched, and I was trying to figure out what I remember.
I know who the second person is in this. Les McLean.
Yeah, so
the artist, I guess. I've heard of him. So it's based on graphic novels. I've never heard of the graphic novels either.
That's right. Yeah, I had forgotten that.
2008. No, absolutely never heard of it.
Yeah.
But it looks goofy. Kind of looks like
that was the movie where he was a cop, and he was going to brought back if you could bring all the demons back. Like 300 demons have escaped hell, and if you bring them back,
Really? No, that one doesn't. I remember Good versus Evil, which was not good, but I tried it. It was
there was also like Section 31 where Booger played a pig.
What?
There we go. Remember the guy?
Yeah, I know Curtis Armstrong.
Yeah. What was it like?
Who was in a movie with Diane Franklin? Everybody had to be in a movie with John Cusack or Diane Franklin. Sometimes both, like Better Off Dead. Isn't Curtis Armstrong in Better Off Dead? I can't remember now. He's in the skiing movie.
He's in the skiing movie. He's in the Summer.
Right, he's in the Summer movie with
Crazy
Moore and
I
can't remember who's in it.
Oops. God.
But I ended up not watching any of the shows. They just seemed too television for me, if that makes any sense. When they started having those shows like the one with the Amazon, the future show with the three girls.
Oh yeah, what was that? Cleopatra. And, Jack of all trades.
Right. And there was a third. They did
Brimstone. That was what the one was like. We got.
I don't remember Brimstone. There was one that I wanted to watch because I had a mad crush on the girl who was in it, but I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. It was the Professor Challenger thing. The the Arthur Conan Doyle story, Lost World. They made a series of Lost World.
Right. That looked really cheap. Well, there's a Conan series. There's a Beastmaster series.
I knew there was a Beastmaster series. I didn't know there was a Conan series.
There was that weird series, that fantasy series with the bad ones were like these women dominatrix that had weird, stunning dildos.
What?
I'm looking up one thing.
Wait, what was this? This sounds like Showtime.
I'm not gonna. Yeah. Waka, waka.
I never got into I disliked. I couldn't get into monsters. I couldn't get into Tales from the Dark Side.
I love monsters. I love Tales from the Dark Side.
You only like the opening of Monsters. Monsters is on. It's Monsters.
What it was is Monsters. It's something was Monsters and Tales from the Dark Side were shows that I could handle, and sometimes that was all that was on. I was like, I'm bored. I want to watch something, and I could leave on.
They were so cheesy because they were using really early video graphics and stuff. The opening of Tales from the Dark Side, where they flip, it turns purple and flips. I mean, that stuff is ingrained in my head because it was kind of like, this is a weird way of putting it, but it was kind of like that time in between Jamaica, first wave ska, and two-tone, and then you had nothing for a while before somebody decided we should have third wave ska.
Okay.
So you only had like the Untouchables and anybody who put out one kind of ska song until Fishbone or something. And you would just, if you were into ska, you would just try to find anything. And Tales from the Dark Side they were actually coming around when I was in college to try to find people to write scripts for Tales from the Dark Side.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It was very New York. It was very...
Yeah.
Like,
I'd revisit that because they also adapted. Whenever I come across it now,
Lex, that show was fucking nuts.
I
loved Lex.
I don't know.
It made no sense.
Did that have a chick with red hair?
At one time, I think the original woman has red hair. Then the new actress, because there's a series of movies, or the series was edited to movies. Again, I'm not an expert on this.
And then there was the Australian one with the blue woman. Right?
Oh, that's Farscape. That was the Jim Henson.
Right?
Jim Henson. The Jim Henson thing I liked.
Yeah, I never saw that. I just kind of TV science fiction and horror. Just there's that period where it just seems like everything's trying to be Star Trek. I guess Star Trek: The Next Generation was up and running by that point, but I don't know. I couldn't get into that either. I mean, it just. But I mean, the first seasons, from what everybody says, was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But, that keyboard sound, like they could only afford half the keyboard that day.
Yeah.
Like we only paid for three notes. Boop, boop, boop. Change the channel. And the thing is, I was a nerd, an uber nerd. I liked Romero. I loved horror. I loved science fiction, and I couldn't fucking watch Tales from the Dark Side. You know, I think I had a real problem with stuff that was shot on video too for a long time. I mean, to a degree, I still do, which is weird because I like British stuff shot on video.
This is the one where he's a pig boy. So it's basically a newspaper, right? I don't know why I thought it was Section 31 because
I have never heard of it.
But yeah, it's like all the aliens and shit shows up. This I don't think was that good.
It's got a 7.1. It's got to be good.
It's got to be good. I know. I apologize.
On the IMDb.
Yeah.
It's got to be good. So did you see anything else that you...
Yes.
Anybody want to chime in? If anybody's still with us, chime in.
No, we have a bunch of people. Actually, the film that I do want to talk about before we end this is I caught this movie, quite by accident going through Tubi. It's called Certain Fury. It's Irene Cara and Tatum O'Neal in a Defiant One's exploitation fuckfest. That's
what? Hey, this trailer is for 18 and over. If anybody's watching,
yeah,
teenage sex worker and small-time crook.
Right. It is. It has qualities about it that make it fascinating. Some of the editing makes no sense.
It's good exploitation.
It is brutal in some of the kind of squib stuff and murders they do.
Is that Peter Fonda?
Peter Fonda shows up for fucking 10 minutes.
For a second, I thought that was Wings Hauser with his Vice Squad character.
And the thing is, I can't really get a good screenshot of it. But Evan, you know when everything looks fake? So like there's a scene where Tatum O'Neal has to go to a gas station to clean up. A lot of shit's going on since she escaped, right? And the bathroom is Hollywood stage directed filthy. Everything in this movie. The sewers could not be the way sewers look. Alleys don't look the way alleys look.
The shot completely on sets drives me kind of nuts.
Oh, it's unbelievable, and it kind of it just is so all over the place in tone, and it gets kind of really, really violent. A character does some horrible shit, and then he becomes comic relief, and then comes back and does worse, horrible shit again. It is.
Oh, is that Xander from Buffy? It's a joke. I hate that fucking
right. I was actually trying to think.
Comic relief should all be shot.
It's actually Nicholas Campbell, who plays a character called Sniffer.
I think I know who that actor is.
Yeah.
Sniffer, huh?
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like good garbage. It's on Tubi.
It's on Tubi. It is, it's amazing because it really makes no sense. It's about two women that are brought to court for different reasons, and two people start shooting up the court, and they just run away. Like, they should just say, they should stop, right? But it's like they're running away, and one of the killers is running behind them, killing cops. Well, we're involved with this.
The 80s had this
unbelievable.
This subgenre of film of just basically going bug fuck, no matter what the subject was, of just shooting. And it's like the scene from Terminator in the cop place, but like everywhere they go. Do you remember that? And they can be really entertaining, even though they're. Do you remember the movie Stone Cold?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Is that Brian Bosworth?
Yeah.
That movie's insane. Like, it's just like ride motorcycles in. We killed the entire judiciary. We attack helicopters with motorcycles. I mean, they're kind of like those. I can't remember who the guy. Those movies. Any one of those foreign movies where somebody shoots helicopters like they're balloons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like whatever.
Remember watching The Hitcher? Did you see The Hitcher?
Yeah, I don't like The Hitcher, but
I don't like The Hitcher at all. And he fucking and Rutger Hauer murders the helicopter.
He murders. I always thought he was like the shark in Jaws 2. Like he ate the helicopter. I fucking hate that movie. Annoys me on a lot of levels, but I think at a fundamental level, I don't like seeing Jennifer Jason Leigh treated like that. That bothered me so much, and I hate C. Thomas Howell. He's another one who makes me.
Really, you're not a big fan.
Absolutely. I know it's a big shock, but no, he's on the Jeff Fahey list. Ew.
He's the sketch artist.
Don't tell them it's me. Oh wait, that's Steve Gutenberg, who is an adult ew.
Right.
Don't tell her it's me. I hate it's really weird when a studio says this is who all the people are gonna love. Girls are gonna want to date them. Men are gonna want to be them. Here's Eric Stoltz. And I know that's terrible. I mean, but I'm not in a movie, so you can't. I don't. Who am I to say anything? But come on.
Well, I want
Andrew McCarthy sleeps through his own fucking movies.
It's like the movie I want to rewatch, but I got to find a decent copy. I don't think any decent copy streaming, or I don't know if it's streaming. Is The Man Who Wasn't There? That's the Invisible Man, Steve Gutenberg, 80s.
I can't watch Steve Gutenberg in anything.
But he's invisible in this.
That's true. That's a good point. But I haven't seen the Chevy Chase Invisible Man movie Carpenter made, or Invisible Man movies are kind of. I like the first one.
I'll tell you, I love Confessions of an Invisible Man, the book. I think it's really good.
I like having Costello meet the Invisible Man.
Yeah,
it's terrible, but it's like uppercut.
I bring this up because I never understood Blake Seven. I am such an uber nerd.
Yeah,
and
you were one of the Doctor Who people,
like old school asshole right. Doctor Who kids.
I think Ken Hart our friend Ken Hart was big Blake Seven.
He does.
I think Steve Gaddy was a big Blake Seven.
Yeah,
Blake Seven. Something about Blake Seven never. And it sounds like an interesting show. It's because it's bleak, no pun intended.
Right.
It's supposed to be very bleak. I mean, I know what happens to a lot of the characters.
What?
Stevie, please put down the internet. Steve Gutenberg in Shakespeare?
Yeah, I wish
I wouldn't direct any Steve Gutenberg in Shakespeare with these lines.
It's such a weird thing. Like I remember, like I even got into Sapphire and Steel when it was finally available.
Oh well, you like? Isn't there an actress in that? Is that the actress that you really like in that one?
Well, I like.
Oh no, Sapphire Steel is the British thing, right?
Yeah, that's. Oh, you're thinking of Man and Machine.
Blonde. Who's the?
I'm thinking of because Sapphire Steel is what's her name?
Joanna Lumley.
Yes.
And I haven't seen that. It's supposed to be a really weird show. It's streaming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kids show. It's also a kids show, which Blake Seven wasn't. But
I don't.
Stevie, nobody believes you.
I don't care if it's the last act of. So,
let me ask you something. Have you seen a film?
No.
Yes, you have. Shush. Have you seen a movie called? It's Lake Michigan Monster from 2018.
Lake Michigan Monster. No, but I feel like everything sounds familiar, and I'm beginning to think I'm just getting senile.
It was made for like $7,000 in Michigan. A lot of Michigan in jokes. the look of it reminded me a lot of the cartoon sequences from Forbidden Zone.
Oh shit.
The whole movie, I think the movie runs out of steam, but I think the movie is really fun.
Where is this? Where did you? Oh, it's on Tubi.
I thought the first half, I laughed a lot. It's really stupid, but it's very fast. It's very cheap, but it's really game. And the art direction on it, they use a lot of computer effects, but it's in black and white, and they do it. It's a knowing style, kind of Fleischer cartoon stuff. It's really jerky, but I think that you and Stevie would really enjoy it.
Okay.
I think one of the problems is that some of the characters are written out of it after a while,
Okay.
and you're stuck with basically following the main character around, and it kind of feels like a series of episodes that, you know, they could have chopped it up into 22 minutes, maybe made a 4-episode show. But I thought it was a very winning, low budget, kind of like Aquabats show meets Forbidden. That's fine. So that's what you've been doing, you.
What do you think?
You can
I tell you that when the fuck.
This is not.
What are you talking about? What?
We're not supported by Alcoa Steel or the Rand Corporation. Nobody's gonna pull the plug on us. And then you just look at you. Look at you.
Look at you.
Your picture is embarrassed at you. Hello. Oh, I didn't know they jiggle. That's great.
Oh yeah, they're googly.
Woo, woo. Well, anyway, I recommend to folks to check out Lake Michigan. It's really dopey. If you like really dopey films, you know, like Jesus Christ, Vampire Hunter, you know, low budget and trying really hard. But I think that it has intentional jokes that work more often than not. I would have cut an entire sequence out of it, and made it about 10 minutes shorter. But you know, I enjoyed it for what it's worth. Some of the things that I ended up doing is I ended up watching a lot on YouTube, the Christmas horror story, the Christmas ghost stories stuff from BBC, the Omar James stuff. They're all above average. They're neat. If you like Omar James, I liked The Signalman, which had Denholm Elliott in, was really nice. I like them. They're like 30 minutes to 45 minutes. They're just nifty. I finally watched the last horror movie, a movie that I've been kind of wanting to see.
Oh, the Spinell?
It's not what I thought it was. I mean, It's not anything. It's a fucking mess.
Yeah,
but it's fascinating because Spinell made this movie with Carol Monroe after Maniac, and it's Spinell as another maniac, another crying, laughing, sweating, creepy man, except he goes to the Cannes Film Festival and shoots everything without permits. And the horror movie stinks, but watching him make this movie in the middle of early 80s Cannes Film Festival is fascinating. Just to see what everything's like, and just to see some of the garbagey Times Square films being given the red carpet treatment. But yeah, it's a terrible movie, but it's kind of like a giallo, but you know exactly what's going on the whole time because it's bizarre.
Does your expectations weird because of the kind of connection to Maniac and the fact that it has?
Yeah.
So you think Maniac's a very, you know, that's a one of a kind movie, man. You know.
The last horror movie is also one of a kind, but it's much more banal than I was expecting.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a budget. He doesn't have Tom Savini. He doesn't have. I mean, Maniac is a kind of reprehensible, weird. Is that Lustig?
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Lustig, for all his faults, knows what he's doing in creating atmosphere and just scuzziness.
Yeah.
And last horror movie is just, it feels like a home movie.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre.
Yeah. I realized I watched The Gourmet, similar to what you're talking about with the those M.R. James stuff.
Yeah.
It was written by a famous writer.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I pronounce everything wrong. Please forgive me for not.
I don't. Yeah.
And it isn't the greatest thing, but it's got such an appealing high premise to
It's
it.
also, I like Charles Gray a lot, who's the star. He was
Right.
he's
Where's your fucking man?
Bond villain and Devil Rides Out.
Yeah.
He kind of plays a
culty, right guy.
Yeah, he kind of plays a oh god, hold on one sec. I'm blanking on the name of Carswell. He kind of plays a Carswell type.
Okay.
From the Night of the Demon. I have not seen the Elijah Wood Maniac. It's supposed to be pretty intense.
I went to watch it once. I wasn't in the mood for it, but I feel like I really got to give it a go because you know it's. I mean, it's very gimmicky, but it's not like I don't love a good gimmick in a movie.
I actually don't know anything about it. I don't like Elijah Wood.
It's all it's all his point of view.
Oh, is it? It's like Lady in the Lake.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. He sees himself in mirrors, I guess, once in a while.
Right. I think. Yeah. Remember, I didn't see it all, so
no,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Have you seen the 1930s Maniac?
No, I meant to. And then isn't there a Hammer Maniac? There's a.
I want to see everything called Maniac. Practically, I mean, it's a great name for a movie.
Right, but not everything named Absurd. Right.
I've only seen one thing called Absurd, and I'm like, why did they call it Absurd of all things? Because it was fucking absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought, like, do you like your own movie? It's kind of like absurd. It's fucking absurd.
Yeah, it's fucking. Well,
I think it's now Absurd is not Anthropophagus, right?
No, Absurd is basically Halloween.
Right, with George Eastman, big George Eastman. I love how everybody has to call him. You know, it's kind of like Kent Chung in Asian movies always has to be called
John
Fatty
Stud.
Kent Chung. You know, Fatty Kent Chung. and of course, American big George Eastman. He is a big guy, but because Anthropophagus is. I actually think I found Absurd creepier than Anthropophagus because they're so mean to the main character of the Last Girl.
Yeah.
But it's a dopey movie. It would be like Halloween if you got to see the kids' parents at a really boring key party for a half an hour while shit's going on.
Right.
And in their house are suits of armor and swords. Yeah, fucking terrible. I watched so I went on that. I went on a big Amityville kick, which we don't have time for me to talk about. Maybe some other time. I know Amityville is like Eric Stoltz for you. You don't want to.
Well, the thing is, like,
there's a lot to unpack because there's so many.
Literally could not give a fuck because I can't get through them.
They're terrible.
I went to watch the 3D one, the one with Tony Robbins.
Terrible.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is stupid, and it's fun. And then after a while, I died, and then I woke up, and I'm like, I don't need to watch any more of this.
You were possessing people to kill Tony Robbins. All of the Amityville horror films start up, and you're like, this is good and goofy, and then you die. Except for the TV movie, which is never good for a second. The TV movie is hilarious because of how they're a sequel to an R-rated movie that's already had 2 films made. Right. Supposedly the second one is really fucking crazy. Now the second one is the only one that I want to see. And interestingly enough, Diane Franklin is in it. Thank you.
And nude.
But the second one, I didn't know that. The second one, now I must see it. The second one is an Italian director and a prequel, and it's tasteless because it's trying to tell you the real story of the murders through demon possession, which is really kind of disgusting.
Gross. Yeah.
But the other ones are all terrible. They're all about white assholes with house problems.
But that's what I mean. Don't you feel that's what Amityville is about?
Yes.
You buy a house, you can't afford the mortgage, you say it's haunted. You know.
Well, that's what it was in real life.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Those cocksuckers and assholes. I'd like to see a movie about the Amityville. The Amityville. What's the word I'm looking for? Grift.
Well, you would know this.
No, I don't know about this. An Amityville with a blown up on canvas.
Yeah.
Shit. I have now seen apparently 7 Amityville horror movies. Okay.
Right.
There has not been one scare in any of them. There has not been a single good scene in.
Well, maybe it's because you're so tough. So
maybe I was looking down. Maybe I was picking a pencil up during the scary scene. They're all the same structure. I mean, they don't even try. Then after a while, they get to the Amityville Cursed Object movies, which they have the curse of being 90s movies. You know, they look like they're on sets, so you can't even believe they're in a kitchen ever. Or there's one where it all takes place in the loft where every 90s movie got made. You know, that loft? They the industrial loft with the industrial elevator that they ride up in, and they're all artists. It's like every fucking movie has a loft chapter. Witchboard has a loft chapter. It just drives you up a goddamn wall. And these movies have nothing to do with the Amityville house. But what they do is they sneak the Amityville house like it shows up in somebody's dream. They see the house in Amityville, and it's like the stupidest way to do sequels. But they don't have the rights to really use the Amityville stuff, so there's now something called Amityville Vibrator, and I don't think it's a porno.
Right.
They don't know what anybody can put Amityville in the title and make, so like they should have Amityville Halloween, Amityville Phantasm. Uh-oh. They're checking on the Ray Bradbury Theater there.
What? No,
the thing that I find fascinating is that when we talked about Friday the 13th and we talked about Phantasm, you understand the appeal of that first movie, why it was a hit, why it was a phenom or something. It was. You can even understand why something like Silent Night, Bloody Night, or is it Deadly? Which is the one with the sequels?
I think, yeah.
I used to confuse them all the time because Bloody Night, I think, is the one with Mary Warrenov, the murder mystery.
But those movies, I think what you're saying is that they seem to almost deserve having an endless sequel mill.
You get it. I mean, but I watched a couple of things where I could not. I get Hellraiser, even though I don't like the sequel. I don't even like the second sequel. The first sequel, I mean. I think it's a real slop fest, and it does everything wrong that the first movie does. Interestingly, but okay. So the thing is with Amityville, I get why it did really well. The book was a phenomenon when we were kids. The Amityville book did gangbusters. The movie was like one of the top grossing movies of the year. Yeah, I almost want to watch this one, but I'm like, it doesn't even have anything to do with Amityville, does it?
Amityville Scanner Maniac Cop, right? Is that you have to have it all?
Is there an Amityville Shark?
I believe there is.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Yeah, really? I will look. I thought there was.
Is there Amityville Steve Gutenberg? Is
there's Amityville in space.
How does Amityville go to space?
I watched the beginning of it. It was on Tubi. The fucking house goes into space.
It does not.
It's magic. Yes.
No. Like, I understand Jason going to space. Sure, that makes sense. Pinhead going into space. Of course. Leprechaun going to space, I think that pushes it a little bit. Yeah. But Amityville House going to space, I draw the line. What the fuck is this guy from who is this guy? Amityville in space?
Yes, I'm not making this shit up.
Who is that guy? That's Sam Kinison. Why is Sam Kinison going into space oh my fucking God. Did you see that?
I couldn't.
They sucked the whole frame of the picture in, not just.
That's how, you ignorant bastard. That's how Amityville gets into space.
That was Birdemic quality. That was fucking. I gotta watch that. See, I'm an idiot. So I watched Amityville. The first Amityville horror movie is garbage. It stinks. It's basically The Shining.
Okay.
For morons.
I
mean, they buy a house, they make some bad decisions. Their whole relationship seems fucked up in the first place because they got a cursed antique toy. But this one's actually related to Amityville House. And so is that other one. How do they? Oh my God. Amityville Evil Never Dies. Why are you showing me these? I'm going to have to see these now.
I want you to watch them all because you said, I saw all these Amityville. Because I'm going to have to hear about it.
I've seen Amityville 3D, Curse, Amityville Curse, Amityville New Generation, Amityville. There's a lamp with the devil's in my lamp. Help! The devil's in my lamp with the B-52s and Scooby Doo and Jerry Reed. And wait, what else did I see? I saw. No, that's not an Amityville. Amityville, It's About Time. That one has a clock in it. It's fucking terrible.
Did you see Amityville Toy Box?
It's an hour and 6 minutes. It's got one. Wait, this is the second antique toy.
I think it's the third if you count the toys, but there is the clock. You have
There's
a
a
clock.
dollhouse.
There's a dollhouse.
I watched the dollhouse. The dollhouse.
There is
the
a
dollhouse
clock
is
one,
terrible.
isn't there?
But the clown one says that there's a toy in it. So they should have like Amityville Pokemon or Amityville. I can't even fucking say it. Amityville Beanie Baby. You could do crossovers. Amityville demonic toys.
I remember once Brian found out we were hanging out. He goes, "There's a Doll Man versus Demonic Toys
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
We have to fucking get that right now."
Transfers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched Amityville. It's about Amityville: The Evil Escapes. I don't even remember what that was. I don't even remember what The Evil Escapes was. What was it?
I don't know.
I'm serious. I don't know. Then there's well, I did watch Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2. That was a big day for me. I rewatched Slaughterhouse, the movie about the big guy who
Sure. Yeah.
It's actually really bad. I remember thinking it was scary as when I saw it on Wometco. Amityville. I watched Amityville Dollhouse. Ooh, Amityville Katamari would be fucking great. The Katamari's all the other Amityville horror movies into one. What's the word for it? I did see this on Tubi that they had Amityville Karen, and it just looked. This looks great. This thing was. I mean, come on. This isn't even a movie. Come on.
It's a movie. How dare you? It's an hour and 44 minutes. Jesus.
You gotta be kidding.
Fuck that. No.
It looks like outtakes from the video Dead. Fucking horrible. What did I watch? Oh, have you ever seen the Japanese movie Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell?
I watched parts of it, but I never finished it.
It's not great, but it's weird enough to see once.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like Wild Zero or something. I was hoping it would get crazier, but it's stretched out for what it is.
Do you remember the Hong Kong film I Love Maria?
No.
This crazy robot girl.
Oh,
movie.
but I think you got yeah. It looks insane.
It was a movie that I remember watching once back in the day when I was obsessed with the kung fu stuff, and I haven't seen it, and it's been restored, and it looks nice, and like Sue Hark is a character in it. He's an actor in it.
That's weird.
It looks really interesting.
Is David Cronenberg in it?
Yes, he plays a creepy fuck.
Man with the bulletproof hair.
Creepy fuck #1.
And now there's creepy fuck son.
Yeah.
So the Pete Walker stuff, I started watching. I caught up with one that I had never seen called House of Mortal Sin, which has some interesting things in it, but was ultimately frustrating because it's a Pete Walker movie, and he really kind of forced the distressing ending.
Yeah.
Then I rewatched Schizo because I hadn't seen it in a long time.
Right, and I realized I've never gotten through it. I never got through that movie. There's a quality about a certain kind of exploitation British films that actually feel icky to me, and that's what Schizo is.
Schizo really feels like you're on the bus or the subway with a really disturbing, unclean person next to you, and they're breathing in your face. You know what I mean? And dripping on you.
Yeah.
They might also be urinating. That film is extremely gritty and weird. Like that. It reminded me a little bit of just the feel of it, of the Santa Claus movie that they made. The Don't Open Till.
Oh yes, exactly.
Just scuzzy.
Right, and it's just like it's swinging British. Oh, ooh,
But
mm.
it's sweaty British.
Yeah, it's not. It's
Funny because he gets good actors. I mean, he's got Stephanie Beacham in a lot of his films, and people. I mean, it's well done, but there is one scene that's just like there is one murder scene where you could hear Italian directors going, "Oh, that was good. That was a good bit. I like that. I got a little bit of an erection on that one."
Little Woody.
Yeah, there's some nasty. It takes a while, but Pete Walker's interesting. I mean, he really is. I was gonna rewatch Frightmare. I think I've seen all his horror films except his last one, which is his most commonplace, The House of Long Shadows. But it's got Cushing, Carradine, Price, and Lee. Got to see that. I don't care if they're just sitting around. In fact, I'd prefer if they were sitting around talking, especially if Christopher Lee's not singing.
Oh,
I don't think I can watch that. It sounds so depressing.
Oh, it'll it makes your balls hurt. You know, like when you get that ooh.
I sort of that iron feeling, that copper feeling.
Yeah.
Metallic tang down there that you wish wasn't happening. Yeah. I haven't had that in a long time because we're old now. We just sit. But yeah.
Well, nobody kicks me in the balls anymore. I try to be nice.
Iron Balls McGinty. I watched a weird giallo that I wish I had seen much earlier because I think I would have enjoyed it more because I've seen things that kind of ripped it off. And that was Short Night of Glass Dolls.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's not bad.
No.
It's interesting that the premise, that it has way different premise than the usual giallo, which is, I don't know if it's ripping it off or based on it, or if they just, of Steady Ernest, which is a story of a guy, it's an old radio play and story about a guy who's dead, everybody thinks he's dead, but he's actually just paralyzed and has like no life functions, but he can hear everyone talking about what they're going to be doing to his body.
Right.
But it kind of ends a little bit like the Perfume of the Lady in Black and a few others.
But isn't there? But before we get it, isn't that story that isn't there a Roald Dahl story?
I think
about a guy who breaks his neck and he's in a.
There's
an Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It's amazing. Yeah. Guy's in a car accident, breaks his neck. He's wheeled in. He's dead, and he's like, "I'm not dead. I can't."
I don't think that's Roald Dahl, though. I think that's the same story.
So why do I always think that's
Dead Ernest? Dead Ernest.
Is it Dead Ernest? Let me see.
I think it's called Dead Ernest. Look it up. It's been done and adapted in TV and radio a whole bunch of times. Very popular story and theme. So it was interesting to see that, but they definitely take it in a different way than the way the story ends, or the way that there is the CBC series Nightfall does a take on Dead Ernest with a different ending. But this one, Short Night of Glass Dolls would make an interesting triple feature with the Perfume of the Woman in Black and Spider Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Because they all have that, I don't want to blow it for those. I tried to watch Blades because of the guy who...
I'm sorry. Why do I always think this is... I constantly think this is a Roald Dahl story, and that's why every time I try to look it up, I don't
look at that. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't know Joseph Cotton starred in this.
Yeah.
Raymond Bailey, for instance. Yeah. I don't know who did the original... Because there's different versions of them. Like Suspense, I think, does a version where the guy's coat gets stolen, and he's got his medical note in it.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
And they've got to track down. They get the jacket, but then they can't get a hold of. And he's got a landlady because a lot of people lived in boarding houses and stuff. And it's basically a excruciating. Will they or won't they get to this guy beforehand? Nightfall does a different version of it that's got much more of a horror element. Then there's versions of it where the guy is it's kind of like the story by I can't remember his name, but there's not maybe Robert Silverberg, The Man Who Returned, which is a guy who comes back from the dead. It's sort of like The Outsider. It's sort of like Lovecraft's Outsider. Instead of finding out that he's a dead zombie, he finds out that really people didn't like him very much. and his bosses didn't like him. His wife was sick of him. His kids had no use for him. And he just doesn't know what to do with himself. But yeah, there's versions like that where the guy's dead there and listening to people who are talking over his body because they feel free to. It's a really interesting. I always find it interesting when a short story conceit goes through permutations like that. But it's an interesting way to bookend your movie. Actually, it goes throughout the entire movie. They keep coming back to him.
Well, it's like the I always think, I forget who did the original story. There's a guy, his wife. Oh, my wife just went away for a couple of weeks, and neighbors start suspecting that he killed the wife, and he's been either doing work in the garden or in his basement.
Well, there's
Is it a
there's two versions of that. There's Home for Christmas.
Okay.
Which is, I think, the original story, which is John Collier.
Right, Collier, okay.
The guy who wrote Evening Primrose, which is one of my favorite short stories of all time, which has also been adapted to radio, and I believe there's a musical. Somebody interesting made an Evening Primrose musical. I don't know if it's supposed to be good, but that's the story about the guy who decides to drop out of society and live in a department store, one of the old-style department stores where they had food and they had everything. And it's fascinating because he builds up this world of people who are actually living in department stores and the society that they have. It's insane. But in Home for Christmas is about a professor who is making a guard. He's doing some digging in his basement. He gets tired of his wife, and he works out a way to do away with her, remarry, and go to America. And she's a shrew who does everything by the book and is very schedule based, blah, 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 blah. But there's also a version where two neighbors are basically, it's a mega plot where they're inviting the police to suspect them.
Right, exactly. Dig up where I've been, dig up this place. And then the wife, right, because the idea later is the wife was away. She comes back and then can be killed because no one's going to go back.
Or I've seen the version of that is where the guy wakes up with a dream, and he's glad that but then he calls his neighbor with an idea. Yeah, they're going to switch around. They're going to bury somebody in that plot afterwards. Yeah, I mean, I love those kinds of old mystery. They're very Alfred Hitchcock show oriented. Collier was very, very interesting. He wrote a lot of crime stuff and a lot of neat horror and fantasy stuff. I think we're at almost 3 hours, so I could talk all night, but I don't think anybody else wants to.
Well, why don't we still have some people. Does anybody want to ask us some questions?
Yeah, I would love
before we wind down.
Or ideas for stuff we should cover, or
anything. Well, that's coming up. I was thinking, I think it's called The Strangest. I hate the fact I can't remember anything anymore. It's a short story about a guy, a weirdo comes into town. He's an eccentric. Right? He's dressed kind of like Doctor Who, right? And he goes around town for a couple of days and they think he's wild. And the end of the story is he goes to this office, and he's revealed as a guy who has a grudge against him. And he's come to kill him. So he kills him and then it ends where he turns his colorful coat around, and it's a normal coat. He takes off his hat and it's a normal hat because he went into town as a lunatic, and they'll blame the murder on this eccentric lunatic, and he'll walk out, and no one will ever
establish the character of the
And I've seen a couple of versions of that, but
I don't know that one. I like that though. Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for anything that's about somebody with a weird long-term plan.
Yeah,
and also that has the neat conceit of the simple plan based on the way the way people act around certain people, or what I'm saying. They're not the trick of the eye type stuff, trick of the mind type stuff.
Yeah,
very simple deflection, almost magic trick type of thing. But I watched Devilfish. That was the two movies that I actually were curious about talking about. One was called The Block Island Sound. It's a newer film. These are both newer films. The Block Island Sound is a science fiction horror movie, very low budget. It's about an island, Block Island. Have you seen it?
No, I have a question coming up that's interesting.
And it's about a fishing. Basically, it's a modern fishing village story.
Yeah.
You don't want to get into, but there's sounds of being heard out on the water. people are acting weird. I think it's really well acted. I think it's a little too long. Might have made a great hour long. Don't know if I buy the high concept the way it is done, but I kind of I found it to be. I was compelled by it. I wasn't knocked out by it though. But it's low budget, and there's a lot of good scenes. But I also think a lot of stuff could have been cut from it.
Okay.
And the other one is a classic horror story, which I won't get into because I really, if this movie was a face, I'd want to punch it.
Oh, that's the one we were talking to when Carl was talking about,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I fucking grew to hate it over the length, over the as it was unspooling and as it was ended. It was one of those movies that got me angry, like back in the day, where I just wanted to say "fuck you" to the movie. It
All right,
really annoyed me.
You ready for a fight?
Uh-oh. Well, you know, I hated it.
I loved it.
I hated it. It took me out of the movie immediately, and the character that she played not only was to me, masquerade party, and I'm like, why? And I didn't know who it was her at first because I didn't know who was in the movie.
Right.
But I was just like, why is there a woman in a man's suit? And since it's a movie about witches, I'm waiting for her to pull the facade apart. I'm waiting for her to, the list of Adrian Messenger.
Right.
I found it extremely distracting, especially in the scenes where they tried to cut around it so that they would, like the opening was terrible with the girl who comes to his office. They were being so cheeky about cheating the shots so that the professor was like this, or was hidden behind a book, or was moving too fast. And I'm like, why is this Dick Tracy villain in the fucking movie? And it turns into nothing. As far as the stunt goes, the stunt casting goes, it turns into nothing. It's just.
But thematically, it does turn into something because
I don't think and
wait. It turns out that one. Yes, because
I missed it
because there are literally no sympathetic men in the movies, and the only sympathetic man is played by a woman. I mean, you may not like it.
No, I don't like it. I don't. But it thematically. Now, I got two. Hi, Kitty. Before you said, one. I didn't know this at the time, and you can't judge based on what I'm reading about it. But it wasn't thematically part of the movie.
But that doesn't matter. The theme of the movie isn't.
Which I just said.
But the thematic part of the movie.
I don't know if I buy that.
I'm sorry, you don't.
There's almost no nice women in the movie. There's a cast of like 100 characters, and they're all.
But there are literally no men in the movie.
There's two men in the movie.
Right. There are two men and one man played by a woman. And even if it wasn't intended, whatever the art intends in the beginning and whatever comes out afterwards is different. You can intend to make a good movie. I mean, I know you don't agree with it, but I find it odd that you're as angry about it as you are.
I find sleep.
You know what I mean?
But I thought it was awful. Right. Because I couldn't stop going, here's a person in full makeup in every scene for no reason.
Right. It's very odd. It's a very odd.
And it turns out, and I'm not I can't use this as a criticism of your theme or their theme, but it turns out that it was just a joke. She said, "Why don't I want to play the professor?" And they were like, "Why the fuck not? Because you're Tilda Swinton, you can do whatever you want."
Right, but it
was not in the script, not in the story.
But it doesn't matter. It ultimately changes the film. It doesn't matter if they intended. If you intend to make a good movie and it's a bad movie, that doesn't matter.
Why are you getting so worked up about it yourself, though? You're defending it as angrily as I am angry about it.
It's so weird that it bothers you.
Because it's not the only thing I dislike about the movie.
But it's a personal opinion.
I think the movie's really bad. I really didn't like it.
I think it's terrific. I
disliked it. I thought it was long, pretentious. I thought that it had a lot of scenes that were completely unnecessary. I hated the ending. I thought the ending was unintentionally funny. I didn't think it was scary. I thought it looked great. I thought the acting was fine. Our main character is not actually our main character, which I found really obnoxious. She mostly dances. She's never in danger. You never feel that she's in danger. They have a secondary character who is our final girl, who isn't really our final girl. The girl who ends up getting her leg broken and fucked with upstairs.
Okay.
I think that the drama of who voted for the leader of the group and who didn't is completely fucking brick walled off because you don't know who did the voting because they show that in an artsy long shot and you don't see them talking about it. You hear everybody voting and it becomes a major plot point at the end. But it's not dramatic just because it's artistically done that you see the person's face in an art shot saying the name of who they voted for. Nothing, it didn't work for me, is all I'm going to say.
Right. And that's the
At
interesting
all.
thing. But that's what I find so fascinating about it. Not because there's right or wrong, but I think it goes to what I always say. What about a movie appeals to people? The way this movie appeals to me is so different from what you hate about it. And I'm fascinated about how both of us watch it. There is no right or wrong way to do it.
I mean, I was looking forward to it.
And I find it interesting that
I didn't go in with the knife.
You were never a fan of the original Suspiria. And then became.
I didn't see the original. No, I can't say I wasn't because I never saw it until a couple of years ago.
I thought you had seen parts of it.
I loved. No, that's Deep Red.
Oh, okay. It was Deep Red.
Deep Red. I saw like half of it on Wometco.
Oh, okay.
And it was really confusing. And then I saw it again in a bad print. But then we saw it at, I think, Exhumed or something. But then I saw the clean print, and it was baby steps with Deep Red. I loved Suspiria right off the bat.
Okay, but you had only seen it.
It's stupid. I mean, there's no scene in the remake that has barbed wire on the floor when you jump through the window.
The room of barbed wire.
Suspiria is dumb, the first one, but to me it's a great nightmare, and I really enjoy it. And its style. I found the style of the new movie I got bored with the look of the movie after about 45 minutes. It's gray, it's Eastern, it's German, you know. I also found that I thought that all of the socio-political stuff felt like trappings and not really important.
I feel like the
socio-political pseudo important.
And the end fight shaky cam stuff are the two things that I disliked the most about the movie.
I hated the entire end. I didn't like the rubber monster woman. I didn't like the staging of the ending. To me, was just so over the top funny, but it didn't work for me the way that Dario Argento over the top, like Tenebrae Murders or Suspiria or Deep Red. Why is there a doll? I mean, I really like the scene where I really like that first set piece with the girl who dies while the main character is dancing. It's really painful. It's really well done. It's really, I mean, it's a rough scene, but I didn't like. I just found the whole secret panel, hall of mirrors, nothing about it worked for me. The character, the woman, the witch who offs herself. We don't know anything about her. I was kind of curious about the reaction after she did it. There's one line of, it just felt like, for a movie this long, there should be more to it. All the scenes with the doctor do nothing except add intelligent meaning to that. I don't think it earns. The doctor never really detectives anything. He's an exposition chess piece. His story, he's like the cop and the priest in the Amityville horror movie. You can remove him almost completely and you could patch up the movie. You don't need him. All he does is add deeper meaning that I don't think was earned with the Holocaust stuff. And all the socio-political stuff that was on the TVs and the radios gets dropped and ultimately means nothing to me.
But so here's the interesting thing. I asked you this when we first talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's interesting that Suspiria, which is dopey and ridiculous and the story makes no sense and whatever.
And also has a lousy ending, but it's a quick lousy ending.
But it's beautiful and it's just, it's an interesting experience.
And it's scary.
Is this movie, if this movie visually took it over the top, would you be more apt to forgive the same kind of things that you forgive the other films for?
I didn't. The movie was too smart and too well crafted and aware of itself.
Right.
To take anything that I thought was silly, anything but seriously, and that failed for me. Tilda Swinton in the makeup was just, I'm just waiting for her to pull it off. I was just like, where's, pull Chekhov's rubber face, and No, she's just a serious character that is on the edges of the movie. She doesn't really interact. She interacts with the movie, I think, twice. He interacts with the movie really twice. Talks to the secondary character, who starts doing the detective work that normally your main character would be doing. To me, the main character is just blithely floats through this movie. She dances and she refuses to take things seriously that the scared girl tells her.
Right.
You know, and then she's like almost there just for it's almost like the setup of.
You don't feel that's almost exactly like what's her name in the first movie? How she
because she does do some detective stuff and she is scared and she is put in danger. Whereas we get a lot of the scenes with her until the Swinton as the mistress are really well done and everything. But to what end? The flashbacks don't do anything for me. They're just the lights on the wall. I thought was kind of silly. I don't know what I was supposed to get out of this 70s effect on the wall, which looked like the budget ran out for them. Like I'm not saying that they should have done Mandy or they should have done some 70s psych out, but if you're going to do that stuff, I mean, anytime anybody does the quick cutting, look, here's some bugs and here's some blood and here's somebody hanging from wall and here's a slit and here's a woman sweating. I'm like, it doesn't register, you know? It's just in the script, dumb shit happens, scary shit happens. Did nothing for me. I mean, I just did not connect with that movie. Yeah. And I was like, I was really wanting to, you know, I had heard good things about it. Your opinion means a lot. And I just was like, I didn't care about these characters. I didn't care about this story. I didn't like the pacing. I mean, I liked the art direction. I liked the way it looked. But half the characters are just laughing or speaking in another language and not connect. I don't need to see them eat 3 times at that restaurant. That didn't do anything. I wanted to like it. The dancing didn't do much for me, but that's like, if you don't like, what kind of ice cream do you like? Some people are going to like dancing. Some people aren't. The movie didn't come together for me. The horror scenes didn't work, except for that one character's death. None of the characters really registered. The side characters are just there to dance.
Right.
The witches don't really come through except for the top 2. And there's a lot more characters in this movie.
So do you like Tilda Swinton?
I've never seen her in anything before. She seems really good, talented.
What I'm curious about is I want to see this. I haven't seen it. I'd really like to see your take on this. This is because I love Jarmusch. Yeah. You know, I think he's a really, really good filmmaker.
I've seen very little. Is he Mystery Train?
Mystery Train, Strangers in Paradise.
I've seen those. Yeah, I haven't seen Jarmusch in ages.
Fucking Broken Flowers, which is my favorite film by him.
Never heard.
But this is a weird because this is a weird stylized film where nothing. It meanders, but in a very quiet way. Yeah. And I'm kind of curious what your take would be on this.
I mean, I thought. I mean, the thing is, I thought the Suspiria remake was ballsy in what it did to not be just Suspiria.
Right.
But I thought a lot of their choices were just.
Ghost Dog is fantastic.
Yeah, I know that one. I've never seen it.
Coffee and Cigarettes, I just recently watched. I didn't love Coffee and Cigarettes, but I love Ghost Dog.
Is Coffee and Cigarettes the one where everybody talks around a corner or something like that? Or?
It's basically a different.
Everybody smokes and talks.
Yeah, everybody smokes and talks. It's very episodic. It doesn't all work for me. Strangers in Paradise is just. I remember seeing that on PBS years ago, and I rewatched that fairly recently. It's just. It's interesting because it goes to kind of filmmaking that you like. Like I feel like Jarmusch is someone who you either like or love or just cannot stand.
Yeah.
You know, and
what's the one with it? What's the one with the guys in jail?
That's I Scream, You Scream.
Yeah. I don't think I think in this case you're looking at the window. I saw that one. And I can't remember the name of it.
What the fuck was that?
I saw that with Frank, in fact.
I saw that with Frank. That was Frank. Frank was the big Jarmusch guy who got everybody in Jarmusch, you know?
But I saw that. I like Mystery Train. I've seen that a couple of times. But yeah, I just watch junkie movies most of the time. But I saw the Only Love Is Left Alive on various places, and I was thinking of checking that out. But I got to be in the right mood for moody movies. But yeah, Tilda Swinton, I don't know anything about her. I know everybody loves her. I mean, I thought she was great. I didn't think she was very good as the guy because it was really hard for me to accept.
Well, the reason I'm curious about what you think of her,
especially when she was in that end scene for like almost no reason.
Down by Law, fucking old.
Oh yeah, Down by Law, yeah.
Right.
But I just thought the end scene was kind of like ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think the end scene is probably the thing that, for me, the reason it works.
They try so hard.
I cannot separate myself from comparing it to the original and what they tried to do without doing the original again. And for some reason, it really appealed to me to change the palette from these bright neon colors to make the witch stuff and the magic actually and the dancing actually important to the mythology of it. So that's
I think they made some good thematic and artistic choices. I didn't like the actual movie, the story, or the it was just it's like it deflected me as I tried to get into it. And I got to say, having the opening scene being somebody in drag with a mask set me up thinking this is a plot point.
Right.
It's a modern movie, and there seems to be no reason why there is a woman acting as an old man.
Right.
And because it's a horror movie, and because Suspiria makes no sense, my brain, now I was jumping too far ahead. My brain is telling me that this is going to have story value, not just as a character, that this character at one point is going to fuck somebody. There's going to be a reveal.
Yeah.
And the reveal is you're going to watch this person carrying a bag around to their house and walking slow and putting things down. And it was
right. It's
pointless.
It's a Chekhov's gun. I could totally see that being something that sticks. It's fine. I mean, I'm not angry.
I didn't like the horror stuff at the end, and I just thought it could have been shorter and a little more propelled. I mean, I don't mind a slow burn. It certainly pays off big. I didn't care for it, but it certainly goes bonkers. It goes bonkers in a way that Suspiria the first one didn't go. And I think the biggest problem with the first one, besides it makes absolutely no fucking sense, if that bothers you, is the ending almost seems like they ran out of time. The ending is so weird. You don't actually even engage with some of the villain characters at the end. They're in a room, and it's almost like, okay, we're done. Leave the room, and we're done with Suspiria. Go downstairs, get out. We don't really know. It's like it's just unimaginative and kind of dull. And after everything that led up to it, I wasn't expecting to see 50 dancers blow up in blood, and to see Baron Harkonnen, his wife, walking around, laughing at people. But the first movie really just kind of peters out, and the second one I just was like, I don't know. I watched it the same night as maybe I was tired. I watched it the same night as Doctor Sleep, and that's 5 hours. And I was losing my mind.
I don't think you need excuses for why you don't.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. I thought they made interesting choices. I didn't like the actual film, and wish I did. It's the kind of film where I felt like bad that I didn't like it, if you know what I mean. Because there are certain films that I expected to like, and I'm like, oh, that was disappointing. And then there are some films that you're like, I feel dumb for not liking it. And no, this is a very personal.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of something. Like, I don't feel dumb for not liking Lost Boys. I don't feel dumb for not liking The Goonies.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of I feel dumb sometimes for not liking The Witch, because a lot of smart people say smart things about it. And I had a lot of problems with The Witch. Like, it's a movie that I respect more than I like. I like parts of it. I like the way it looked. I like what it was trying to do. I just saw a movie called Possum, and I wanted to like Possum. And I feel like I'm making special arguments to myself to try to, you know what I mean. You don't want to be the person who goes, "I was bored. It was
Well,
too slow."
to me, it's like
You know what I mean?
there's a deconstruction where I say to myself, "Am I not liking something because everyone likes this?" You know,
Yeah.
I remember Jim Hanley. We're on the phone, and I go, "Yeah, I didn't like that." And he goes, "Why? Because everybody liked it." And I'm like, "How could I argue that not being the case? Because that's true so many times." So, like elevated horror, a lot of this stuff that people absolutely
Yeah.
adore, I just find tedious and terrible.
Right, but
And
do you think that's but you don't go in going, I'm going to find this tedious and terrible,
I go,
do
no,
you?
I go in. I go in with certain expectations based on what I know about the film, and I try to base my reactions totally on what my crazy mind is about, and
Yeah. But
not what I'm experiencing.
parts of what was going on with Suspiria is like, look, I don't know enough about the Berlin Wall and the time period, and they're filling me in with all this terrorist stuff on the news stuff that is a running theme and a running background, and it's adding this texture to the film, and I guess it has meaning, right? But I'm not getting it. I don't know if this plugging into a feminist aspect? Is this plugging into what is this political aspect with the Holocaust? And at the end, it's like, well, but the terrorist stuff all kind of just ended. It just kind of they dropped that and they got on with the movie. But I mean, in the early like first hour, it felt like it didn't feel like the terrorists were going to burst in like it was some ridiculous
Yeah.
action movie or caper movie. Like
Well,
all of
then,
a sudden
yeah.
it didn't feel like the bank robbers or the people who were behind the plane hijacking will get all of a sudden burst into we're with the witches, oh shit. I didn't think anything like that was going to happen at all. I realized it was speaking towards the time, but I mean it was just like, why was the witches place right on the Berlin Wall outline? Was that just a visual? Did that have deeper meaning? I don't know. Is there a lot of people in the audience who are going to understand East and West Germany from that time? I'm not the dumbest person on earth, but I don't know a lot about all that. And so I was just kind of curious about, like, was this? It felt like it felt like inserted deep meaning that didn't really gestate into anything. I mean, I can understand the Holocaust stuff a little bit more
Huh.
because it's a
Huh. Yeah. I never thought of that. That's interesting.
well, I haven't seen Possession yet. It's a film I'm waiting to see it because I want to be I don't want it to bum out a good mood, and I don't want it to exacerbate a bad mood. So
Right.
I've been waiting on Possession. Plus, I know very little about Possession, which is good. I really want to see it.
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen,
fucked up. I want to see it again.
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't seen it in like a decade or
Maybe we can do something about that because
Oh
if
yeah, that
people
might
like
be interesting. Yeah.
one of the things I'd also like, I'm very happy if people, even though I might not like, there are certain movies. Sarah was recommending a movie to me that they had watched, and I said that sounds a little. They'd watched it on Netflix, I think, and I said that sounds a little heavy because I think I've mentioned this to you when we were talking over at Brian. It's like I am shying away from certain films the last year or two because of my depression and just overall my the way my head is. I have to be really ready to watch something that I think is going to be a bummer,
Oh yeah.
and sometimes you don't know something's going to be a bummer. Like a movie like The Woman in the Perfume in Black, I was not expecting to
Right.
feel
But
depressed.
you have to be when you're gonna watch Pig, the Nicolas Cage movie, which I think is unbelievable.
I've
I
been
think
wanting.
you have to be prepared.
Look, I was afraid to get into Mandy because the first time I was too tired. I was a little freaked out and wasn't in the right place. But because Mandy seemed heavy, I didn't know where it was going to go. But Mandy was a really weird mix of depressing and thrilling. I mean, I guess that's the way some revenge movies are also, if nothing else. But I had to wait a while before I dipped back in, and I really enjoyed it, even though I was still sad at the end. And it was,
Yeah.
I found that it was a bummer. And so it's like people are like, "Oh, you should watch Hereditary," and I'm like, whether you like it or whether I end up liking it or not, I have a feeling it's going to drag me down.
Yeah.
and it's going to upset me in certain ways. So there's a group of films that I have not been able to grapple with because first of all, I'm easily scared. I've always said that. I'm a baby. I literally jumped at my own shadow the other day. And I make fun of my cat for doing that, and I did it.
Okay.
Because
did you jump like 3 feet out of the air?
Here's what I did a couple of weeks ago though. We had a mouse problem. We didn't realize we had some mice nesting, right? They're mostly gone. But the warm weather, we still have one that's running around. The cat's caught 1 or 2. We've never had a mouse problem.
Right.
You know, once in a while you have one. Yeah, Staten Island, we have.
Yeah, of course.
And I went into the bathroom, and there's a heater in there, and I guess because it was warm, there's a mouse. We have a small bathroom downstairs. You've actually you know our house, so there's a small bathroom downstairs. I got so flipped out by the mouse moving on the floor that I screamed at the top of my lungs, backed out with my shoulder so hard out of the door. Actually, it was this shoulder, the bad one. I went flying out of the door like fucking John Woo movie, sideways, and smashed right into the double doors that go into our workroom. I was out of it. I had to put ice on. I fucking almost knocked myself silly out. It was awful. I couldn't use my arm for the next day. I'm easily scared.
Yeah.
There are movies that I haven't watched just because I'm afraid I'm going to be too fucking scared.
But here's the thing.
I get depressed.
I will preface the thing with Pig is here's the thing. Yes, you got to be prepared for what you see. But if you think of a film where Nicolas Cage loses his truffle pig, it gets kidnapped, and he has to go get it, and you
that's what it's about.
And you think that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Okay.
But it isn't. What it is. It is literally. It is unlike any revenge film you've ever seen in your life.
Oh, I don't want them to hurt the pig.
It's a revenge film in the sense that it's fascinating.
Well, I don't want to see the dog die in the John Wick films, so I'm like freaked out by those.
I just rewatched the John Wick films. I peed when I said, Stevie, don't pause this. I'm gonna go pee because I don't need to see this dog die.
The worst thing I think that I've sat through in the last few years, though, is Wake and Fright.
Oh yeah,
that scene was. I just watched something where they were working through. It was horrible. They were killing animals in the movie, and I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" They were killing snakes. I was like, "Jesus Christ!" I'm very soft.
I don't need to see that. I mean, I don't need to see dogs in movies where I know they're gonna die. I don't need to see
I saw the John Wick 4 trailer today, and it certainly looks nifty.
It's fucking insane.
It looks like good comics. You know what I mean? It looks like good.
It's
amazing that Michelle Yeoh and Donnie Yen have ascended to, like, in some ways more legit than Jackie Chan to take over the world.
Well, they didn't
because they're better actors.
And they also made different movies, and Jackie Chan,
right?
Was kind of at the end of his rope.
He's also turned into a supreme asshole. But but I mean, Donnie Yen is like so amazing, even more so in a way because he could have gone Yuen Biao.
Well, Donnie Yen's a guy who, at different periods of watching when he was doing movies, you go, "Why isn't this guy a fucking superstar?" Right. And he became a superstar because he deserved to be a superstar.
I think the very first thing we saw in theaters was Iron Monkey.
Oh man!
Even before East is Red, I think we saw Iron Monkey, and I didn't even remember that was him.
Yeah, a little too much undercranking, but it's
but it's a fun movie.
Oh, it's so much fun,
and I'm very fond of it. But it's just really amazing to have seen him. I mean, it helps that he seems to have remained 35 years old.
Yeah, he is interesting, and I watched. He did a remake, a very loose remake, only by title, of Enter the Fat Dragon, which was goofy fun. And I remembered that time when I was watching just all these Hong Kong action films, and it just felt like, oh, here it is, stupid shit in a police precinct that makes no sense. That's not how the law works. What are you fucking
Right.
talking about?
If you grew up, if somebody told you, oh yeah, the police in Hong Kong is just like in the 80s movies, you'd be like, oh my God, it's pandemonium, you
Right.
know?
Well, we saw. I was going back and thinking about the shit that we got to see in the theater. You know, I got to see Hard Boiled, The
Yeah.
Killer.
Yep.
That's because of you.
The Killer was just plain dumb luck. That was me, Robbie Bush, and Kyle Baker going to see Lost in America, Albert Brooks,
Yeah.
right? Is that the name of it? And they showed the trailer for. It's like that might be one of the last great moments of like being a kid in a theater, because I had never seen a John Woo type. I had never seen the Better Tomorrow. I never heard of those things at that time, or Troy Hawker, or any of that stuff. And the thing for The Killer, the trailer runs and the audience goes bonkers. And there's only like about 40 people in the audience. And you could tell that we couldn't. First of all, first thing we said is we're seeing that.
Yeah.
We're seeing that. When the guys in white are just jumping over walls and the crazy shit from The Killer. And we were like, is this supposed to be a comedy? Yeah. Or is this just insane? And it turns out it's insane. And yeah, that was a real.
That was a game changer.
That was a game. That was a life change. That's a life change. That's a movie. Everybody, you wanted to see everything.
Yeah, that was the 90s.
Chow Yun-fat, you get John Woo, and you get gun fu and ultra violence. Like that.
It's the 90s, and now you're seeing the Jackie Chan films that are coming out. You're seeing, they're showing Chinese Ghost Story. They're showing the Once Upon a Time in China films. You're going to the Film Forum. You're going to fucking Cinema Village.
But everybody, that's the thing. Cinema Village, 13th Street Theater. Was that the other one?
Was it?
No, I think. But you had the Quad. Would even show some. You had what was the one with the basement? Is that the Cinema Village? I mean, shit, we got to see Hard Boiled with Chow Yun-fat doing a Q&A.
I didn't. Yeah, you got to see that. You
Sarah,
don't have pictures of that though, right? Didn't the pictures go weird?
I fucked up.
Yeah.
Fucked up. I took pictures from too far away. I was so nervous. I was out of film and I didn't take any good pictures. And Sarah Chow Yun-fat walks over to Sarah and hugs her. She was wearing a silver jacket. And I was like, I've lost my girlfriend. And everybody, it was really like a moment. Everybody's like, ooh, but it was like the weirdest thing. Sarah's just like, I guess because I had really bright blonde hair and a silver shiny jacket. And for some reason, Chow Yun-fat just went, and Chow Yun-fat's going to hug your wife.
I remember when it's like Drunken Master 2's coming out and we heard all about this. And it's amazing. Like, it's going to be in Chinatown like a week after it premieres in Hong Kong, or a week and a half. And I remember seeing that movie.
I forget where I saw it in the theater, but I don't remember it being in Chinatown. But I remember
we saw it at the Rosemary, I thought it was.
Oh, man. Oh, well, and then we saw
Stevie's Asleep.
The Rose Palace? What the hell was that called? I can't remember now. Yeah, I love that theater. I wish I went there more.
Yeah, that was I saw that's the first time I saw Stephen Chow film.
Because we saw
Hail the Judge.
Hail the Judge after a Jackie Chan film. And we had no idea who. We almost left.
Yeah.
We were going to get up and leave, but we said, look, if it stinks, and we Hail the Judge, and we were laughing our asses off.
Hilarious.
That was the one where the woman in our row was eating Chinese food the entire time and then went to sleep, and then she woke up. Are you the one who saw the cats screwing?
Yeah, that was at the Sun Sing. That was I think that was New Dragon Inn and maybe Double Dragon. I never remember the other film on that, but that was the one where we all converged. There were several groups of us, and we all came. Tony shows up with pork buns. Paul Girardi brings pork buns. I have pork buns. Right? We all got them from different places, and it's just we're sitting there, and it's just there's cats walking around, and we're watching movies in the
because you brought pork buns.
Yeah, and it's the afternoon. It was amazing.
Yeah, I remember seeing. For me, another game changer, and this might have been around the same time, was East is Red, because I had never seen fantasy kung fu like that, with lots of special effects. I mean, there was stuff on Kung Fu Drive-In Theater, but it was never that insane. The use of threads and fabrics and explosions and I still haven't seen The Swordsman, the first Swordsman.
The first Swordsman's weird because that's You know, because it's King Who, but it's not really him directing. It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
his film. You know, it feels very
That
90s.
was an amazing night. Even though the print sucked, when we went to see um, Touches End,
Ugh.
that was a big night. I still remember that. We went to the pet store to get food for the cat, and then
For Byron, that was
yep,
Byron. You found
and
Byron that day.
the print was not good, but it was riveting.
No,
I
that
love
film
that
was,
movie.
yeah.
I think I've seen it like 3-4 times now. I love that movie. I still haven't watched all the King Who stuff, but I liked everything I've seen by him.
Yeah.
Dragon, was it Come Drink With Me? Is one of them?
Drink With Me, yeah.
But I love that movie. That movie was like a slightly religious experience. It was just like it was
Was that at Lincoln Center?
It was a transporting film.
Yeah. That was it was an interesting time to dip into that genre. You know,
what was the last question? Was there a question?
Oh, there was the Projectionist is worth watching documentary.
Oh, Abel Ferrara.
But that's not.
Oh, he owns Cinema Village. That's funny.
There's a documentary. I don't know. I can't. Is that documentary?
I think Miss 45 is one of the first like exploitation films I saw in a theater. I think I saw that at the Thalia. I don't remember it well at all because I mean that was like what, mid 80s or something like that.
Yeah, this is, I guess, the Projectionist. I'm looking it up. It's from 2019. There's a earlier movie about obsessed moviegoers in Manhattan. So this is like it's you know, the guys that would go to Film Forum every day and had the phone number for the projectionist. So if the gate wasn't correct and he didn't like the aspect ratio, he would go out to payphones and he goes, oh, at the time of the movie, it was like he had just gotten a cell phone, which is nice. So he could call the projectionist and say,
this is a real.
That's a guy. That's a guy. And there was a guy who every movie he ever saw, he wrote in a notebooks and had spiral notebooks. And it was the obsessive Manhattan moviegoer.
I don't know anything about that. I have my stupid notebook. It's like it's to help me try to remember them, but I still can't remember them. Oh, the duty follows. Oh, okay. Wow. I haven't been to Cinema Village in ages.
Yeah. I
miss the Thalia. I like when the Thalia went downtown. It was. I'd always get the seat behind the pole. It just
that's
wasn't
the
as
thing. I'm always early, so.
Yeah, well, I'm always late. I like the Thalia. I mean, it was a bit of a trudge because of Staten Island up to uptown, but I like the theater and I like seeing stuff there. Those were good times.
Oh yeah.
Off to see it there. I remember I went there for Halloween once with my friend Tim, and it was Night of the Living Dead and Carnival of Souls. And at that point, Carnival of Souls was for some reason hard to find, and I'd never seen it, but they didn't have it. They ended up not being able to get a print. I mean, can you imagine people dealing with that now? You know, I want to watch a movie. Oh, they weren't able to get it. They weren't able to stream it tonight. You know, it's like they go bonkers. Hey, baby. Hey, come here. But I saw Horror Hotel with Christopher Lee, but he doesn't sing. Also known as City of the Dead, which is actually a really fun movie. It's a low-budget gothic movie that came out the same year as Psycho and has some similarities plot-wise.
Yeah.
I know that my picture is really bad, but this is Winky, for folks who like Winky. Winky has not gotten in my lap for days. She has been I rearranged the studio a little bit, and I think she got annoyed at me. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? How are your cats doing?
Oh, they're fine. You know, they're goofy. Is it Cinemania? Is it Cinemania?
I do not know. Yeah, I was not watching movies for a couple of weeks, but then I started again with a vengeance. I started drawing in front of when you watch stuff like Head of the Family, you can get work done because that was just not. It's funny though. I started watching something horrible called Killer Eyeball, and I go, "Is this a David Dakota film or however you pronounce his last name?" Yeah, what? I couldn't watch it. I don't have any problem. Cinemania. What is it?
That's what I'm talking about. That was the movie I was talking about.
And that's about a guy who
a bunch of people. I'm putting it up on screen. It's
2002.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a really interesting documentary because this is something that I always, Staten Island.
This delightfully deranged cult. Wow, that's harsh.
Well, unfortunately they're presented as pretty nutty in this. But I always thought that would be a great life because when we did the 100 movies in '97 thing where we all had to see 100 movies in '97.
Does it count if you're on an airplane? I remember you guys were asking.
It counts. You have to see 80% of the movie. You can't sleep. I would time people. I scratched off a couple of Paul Girardi's because he would go to sleep during the movies.
Right. He would sleep in movies a lot.
Yeah.
And then he'd go, I wasn't sleeping.
I figured out what happened.
I was fine. No, I know what happened. Ask me anything.
I guess we should probably wind it up. It's getting close to midnight. I hope everybody had a good time. People are saying hi to Winky. I'll show that.
Winky. My baby. I love that people like Winky. Oh, she's
pretty cat.
She slipped my slit your throat.
So thanks for joining us. I hope it was entertaining.
Yeah, the hangouts are never. I'm sorry I didn't like Suspiria, but I think Tilda Swinton's swell. I do.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not a tribunal.
I liked the regular character. I thought was really good, and I actually liked the arc of that character. If you know what I mean, it was not what I was expecting, and the ending. Even though I didn't like the way the ending worked out, I was actually really freaked out by how things worked out for that character. I was a little confused, to be honest. There's a shot or two that throw things off.
I'm glad you had a good time.
Is this happening or not happening? Oh, next time we can talk about Crime Killer for 17 hours.
Oh, Crime Killer!
It's the Crime Killer. That was ridiculous. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. I hope you find some movies. But seriously, is there a place to drop us a line? I have to learn how to.
Just you could email us. You could do things, but it's like we're on social media. We're on.
Yeah, I'm totally open to if you say, here's a couple of movies, consider watching them.
Yeah.
Because people are curious. We need an episode 21. We're trying. Can't do Amityville. I'm not going to put Paul through that.
Yeah, because how long was how long was the last time we sat down in September? Well, we did 3. That was 9 hours.
And also people the last episode we did, Paul was telling me seems to have not gone over super well, and that's fine.
It's slow. It's at the numbers. It's about a month off from the numbers.
But I'm just curious. I am curious about, but I know that it was a long episode about a pretty obscure film, and I'd be happy to hear. We are definitely interested in stuff you'd like us to cover. I mean, we're doing this for fun, but we really appreciate you guys, spending time with us. But we could always use some ideas. Because I think we've been talking about what are we going to do for 21, and I don't have any great ideas. We do cover a lot of stuff in these live streams but yeah, it's like I don't think we want to watch every Hellraiser movie.
Well, and I don't think we want to necessarily do a deep dive on. I don't want to watch Alone in Fright and go through it, frame by frame and be sad right now. I would love to find some good shitty movies to laugh about,
Yeah, that would be yeah. But that's the thing. I think it worked out that we went really deep dive on the last 3 films because we really like them. 2, they're all really pretty meta.
Yes.
In various ways, and there was a lot to unpack, and we would just really, but yeah, we don't need to, do a Centipede Press 150-page book on, one movie. But, I feel like we just maybe a push in a direction or something we overlook. We don't have to like it even. It's just that we've watched a lot of crap. and at times you kind of get lost in it all. Like I don't know new trends. I mean, we were talking about doing some folk horror.
Yeah, and
We
it's
kind of
just
talked about. I mean, yeah, it's like it's sometimes it's it's a movie like Evil Ed or something weird like that. There's not much to say about them. So if you guys have any ideas, throw them out there. Yeah, maybe we'll watch Maniac. That might be, because I mean I know that people were divided on it. The Elijah Wood one, that could be, but we'll see.
we could compare and contrast both of them.
Yeah, but people really got to watch the early Maniac, because it is the Maniac for its time.
Should we watch every Maniac movie and just do a 10-hour podcast on?
You shouldn't say that, because I would. Cool, thank you. I'm glad, and thanks for everybody who chimed in, everybody who watched.
Yeah.
And good. I had a ton of fun talking to everybody. Talking to you, Paul. Scary Paul watching us from the Zardoz board. Hello. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Tonight.
We'll be around. Find us. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram as ourselves. It's obviously Evan Dorkin. I have no real presence, but I'm
Mr. Yellovich.
Mr. Yellovich.
Tear Them Apart is and Tear Them Apart. Tear Them podcast. We have one vote for Maniac.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Oh, and I am trying to get the damn T-shirt made. I am sorry, but life has been a fucking.
What do you mean?
Life's been tough for everyone, really. That I know.
We'll get to it. Don't kill yourself.
I mean, I want one. It'd be cute, but your face is moving. What's going on back there?
What face is? Oh, this.
Is it? Why is it? Yeah. Oh, okay. That was. No, because it was okay, good night.
Good night.
Maniac-a-thon.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
I'm turning it off. 1, 2, 3. It's off. No, it's not off yet. Don't say anything bad.